Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. We are live. It is Tuesday, April 14th. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We got a green day. We have a green day in the pre-markets. It is going to be very important today to see if this green can hold. But, folks, we are $3 away from cracking 690 on the S&P 500, which we haven't been at in over a month, and 697, I believe, is the highs. We are at 687.90 in the pre-market. It is quite incredible, the level of momentum you're seeing. I mean, as you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, everything is catching a bid. Bloom up 12%. They had a new deal with Oracle. MicroStrategy up 2%. Bitmine up 4%. Bitcoin at 74.3. The Qs are at 620. Very, very close to breaking those all-time highs. Amazon finally getting a little bit of a breakout, 243. SanDisk almost at 1,000. Iran is up 4%. AMD's up 1.2%. Intel's up another 1%. Goldman Sachs actually going green after the earnings that they had yesterday when they were down 5%. JP Morgan, BlackRock, a bunch of those companies had earnings, so we'll talk about that. Palantir up another 1.73%. Axon, Air Test Systems, Lunar, ASTS, AppLovin, TeraWulf, Cypher, Corning, GE Vernova. I mean, everywhere you go, there's some pockets of red. Even Celsius, which has been on a pretty ugly downturn over the past couple of weeks, is finally flipping green. We are starting to see that bull market momentum that people have been waiting for a long time to come back. And we will talk today about why it's coming back, sort of what it means in regards to the broader market from a commodity perspective, a equity perspective, crypto perspective, and a treasury perspective. But my goodness, you are seeing buyers step in. I am going to be very curious today if we can get a second day in a row this week of that green momentum. This would be the 10th green day in a row if we end up closing green. Yesterday was the 9th green day. And that would be the longest stretch since November of 2023. So it's been over 2.5 years to be able to get this type of momentum in a row consecutively. And obviously, we had 2 months of choppiness, which were really ugly. Nvda right there, 190.40, breaking out in the pre-market. Nebius did hit 160. It's at 159.50. It looks like it wants to get that 160 day. Robinhood finally coming back, 74. That's up 4% after being up 4% yesterday. Question's going to be, can it continue? And I think there's a lot of different macro data to get on today to talk about today to express if it's going to continue or not. The bias, obviously, from my perspective, based on looking at the data, and I'll share all that for everyone today, is that it does continue. And quite frankly, there was some news updates yesterday around the Iran war that insinuates that there is a chance to have this continue. And, this is why we're seeing the breakout. Yesterday night, we got some big news. Markets flipped green. Futures flipped green. 4 a.m., you had a really big green candle when the pre-markets open. And you're seeing that continue, hopefully, over the next 40 minutes when we get into the market open, we see that continue. I mean, Oracle, dude, this was up 13% yesterday. It's up another 6% right now in the pre-market, 164. That's a 18% move in 2 days. It was at 130 or 135 on Friday. IGV in general, software, getting a classic textbook style rebound. Salesforce, Adobe, Palantir, Datadog, Snowflake, all of these names getting some momentum, which is very, very nice to see. And hopefully we can see if that will continue today. So let's get into it. We got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of stuff to get into. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I know people, this is really exciting, right? So people, after all the emotional misery we've gone through over the past 2 months, or I guess I should say emotional volatility that we've dealt with, it is really nice to see some green momentum. But the number one question on everyone's mind is, can it sustain? And I think there is a good shot it can. And if it does, dip buyers will once again be rewarded. And, if dip buyers are rewarded, it might get a lot of people who haven't been actively buying the dip, which I don't think institutions or retail have been super, super heavy in buying the dip like they were last year. It will probably get them to start buying into the strength, which just keeps that momentum going. And if that momentum does end up going to the level that people think it can, maybe we are in for a much more exciting ride. PPI, before we get into any of the other stuff that we got to talk about, producer price index, it came out this morning. It's not that bad. It's bad, but it's not that bad. Core PPI 3.8, market expected 4.1. Headline PPI 4, market expected 4.6. So it's bad. It's the highest overall PPI increase since February of 2023. So again, 2.5 years, or 3 years at this point. But yeah, literally 3 years because we're in 2026 since we've had this level of an increase. But the reason for this increase has been because half of the overall increase in PPI was a 15.7% increase in gasoline prices. So oil and gas kind of contributed to over 50% of the reason for why PPI was the worst that it's been since February 2023. The reason the market's not reacting, I mean, you would think with an ugly CPI back over 3%, PPI now into the mid 4s, that this is like an issue and the market should be taking it seriously. But once again, the war has been the overhang. And if the pounds are getting 135 right there in the pre-market, if the war overhang is gone, aka oil prices can start coming down, then it might not be that big of a deal. And if it's not that big of a deal, the market can at least look forward to months into the future where, you know, we don't have oil prices that are this high, which means equities can go up and inflation can be perceived to come down. Also, the probability for rate cuts potentially can come back into play. Kevin Warsh, by the way, is going to start testifying to become the new Fed chair on April 21st. That's what's being reported today, April 21st. So it looks like in the next couple of weeks, or not even the next couple of weeks, in next week, we're going to see what the hearing will be like for him as Fed chair. Right now, the probabilities for a rate cut are still completely priced out for the year of 2026. We don't get the first rate cut until early or mid 2027. So inflation's definitely got to come down. But if this war were to end, that would give Kevin Warsh a boost in being able to get us that rate cut, because that would hopefully let inflation come down. So that's what we got with PPI. All right, macro news. Let's get into it. Again, a lot of stocks going really green right here. I'm going to be curious to see if 930, that momentum can sustain itself. And there's a ton of data to look at to see if it can. But I feel like there's a better shot than not that that momentum is sustainable, given the big update we got last night, which was as follows. 2 U.S. officials have revealed that talks are currently underway for a second round of negotiations. It is possible that these talks could take place this Thursday. Multiple outlets have reported this throughout the day of yesterday. It got a lot more confirmation last night. The U.S. has not officially come out and said we're doing this, but it is pretty obvious right now. And this is going to happen in Pakistan again. So I don't know if JD Vance is going to head all the way back to Pakistan or they're going to send different people there, but it looks like there are going to be more negotiations. Now, you might be asking, well, why are we going to have a round 2 of negotiations if both sides couldn't agree on anything, right? Like if one side says this, the other side says this, then how can there possibly be a second round of negotiations because both sides simply hate each other? Well, the funny thing about a negotiation, and for those that have actually been in negotiations in their life, is that you don't get what you always want, but you can potentially compromise. And the headline that we got last night, I think, is why the markets are absolutely ripping, because it finally gave them confirmation that the Iranians are ready to compromise. A leaked memo to the New York Times confirmed that in those 21-hour negotiations with Trump or with JD Vance and the Iranians, JD said, we want a 20-year suspension in your nuclear ambitions. Iran said, we will only give you 5. JD went back to Trump. He said, Trump, are you okay with 5? Trump said, no, I want 20. And that's what created the blockade and all the stuff that's been happening over the past 48 hours about the U.S. Navy interacting with the Strait of Hormuz, yada, yada. The point is, the takeaway to the market as soon as this came out, which is when futures kind of went crazy last night, is, oh, wait, they're actually talking. They're actually talking. They're like legit talking. Like one side is actually saying, I am willing to give you 5 years, which, you know, I don't think Trump can meaningfully take 5 years, because that's not reasonable. You can't justify this entire 1 month long excursion, war, whatever you want to call it, just for a 5-year ban on them creating nuclear weapons. But the fact that the Iranians are not saying, we will not give you anything, we don't even want to talk about that, we have a sovereign right to nuclear weapons, don't even come to us with 10 years, 5 years, 10 days, 3 days, we're not accepting. The fact that it's not as hostile as that means that there's room to negotiate. So one side wants 20, the other side wants 5. Yeah, as Austin says in the chat, 10 years and it's a deal. You meet in the middle and get the job done. And maybe that's how this ends up playing out. So this is why it's super bullish. Whatever you politically feel about Iran and their ability to have a nuclear weapon and how Trump is handling the ability to get multiple years. Some people say it should be 50 years. Other people say it doesn't need to be that aggressive. The point is both sides are conversating. And for the first time in a while, it seems like there is a chance, a path, and a framework towards diplomacy. And that's why the market's ripping. Because right now, if the market believes that there is a real shot this deal gets done, then that whole press conference we had on Saturday where JD was like, we can't come to a deal, that gets thrown out of the window, because it looks more likely than not that they can come to a deal. And that's what JD said yesterday on Fox News when he talked about some of the updates on the talks.
Why are we at the place we're at now? Yeah, so back out just a little bit, Brett. What the President of the United States has said is, number one, Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. So all of our red lines flow from that fundamental premise, because it is one thing for the Iranians to say that they themselves are never going to have a nuclear weapon. They are willing to say that, and that's good. But you have to, of course, verify these things. And there are two things in particular where the President of the United States really said we have no flexibility. We have to get to the outcome that the president said. On the first of those things, what some people call the dust, which is the enriched uranium that the Iranians currently possess, we have said that we want that to come out of their country, and we would like to take possession of it. Now, why does that matter? That doesn't matter, of course, because they have access to that material now. That material is actually buried underground by Operation Midnight Hammer. But if you think about this over the long haul, the president doesn't want to leave the next president or the president after that to be worrying about this program. And so we would like to get that material out of the country completely so that the United States has control of it. That's number one. And the second thing is that, again, to this point about verification, it's one thing for the Iranians to say that they're not going to have a nuclear weapon. It's another thing for us to put in place the mechanism to ensure that's not going to happen. Part of that is, of course, to ensure that they don't have the ability to enrich uranium, which is how they got so close to a nuclear weapon before. So those are really the two things where, frankly, the Iranians, I think, did make some progress. They moved in our direction, which is why I think we would say that we had some good signs, but they didn't move far enough. And so what we decided is, you know what? Given that we don't think this current team and this current timeline is going to be able to make a deal, let them go back to Tehran. We're going to go back to Washington, and that's where we are today.
As soon as JD Vance said that last night, basically the stock market was like, we got it. We understand. We get what you're trying to tell us. You're trying to tell us it's not as serious as we thought it was on Saturday night when you said we spent 21 hours of negotiating, but no deal. Because now the premise for the argument is, well, we kind of did have a deal. It's not like we didn't have some level of agreement. Like the way JD framed it on Saturday, which is why, everyone got so bearish, is like, they hate us, we hate them, we're never going to be able to agree on anything. And then that's why the futures went down and oil spiked up 8%, and the market was just like, all right, this thing is never going to end. Whereas yesterday, it was more like, well, actually, we just really want to be able to put in these guardrails and security checks. And, they kind of agreed to a few things, but they didn't go all the way. And that's why Trump is doing the blockade. And now it's like, all right, eventually, Bitcoin right there, 74.5. Eventually, there is going to be some level of agreement. At least that's what the market is thinking. You might not believe that. Maybe it doesn't happen. Maybe we end up going back to war. But the market, based on this green price action and the level of green price action since the March 30th lows, is kind of validating that this is probably going to be over. And if this is going to be over sooner than later, then it doesn't matter if it's worse than Obama's deal or it's better than Obama's deal, right? I've seen all the political commentary over the past 24 hours, but the market just cares about green or red. And for them to go green, they need to think that the conflict is coming to an end, or as a framework to coming to an end. And as a result of it coming to an end, oil prices can go down, inflation can go down, we can get rate cuts, earnings, which we're getting into over the next 40 days, can actually be appreciated when these companies put up monster numbers, which I think this is going to be the best quarter since 2021. Last quarter was the best quarter since 2021. So I think this quarter is going to be better than last quarter. It's going to be the best quarter in 5 years. And the market should appreciate that and give these companies a premium for putting up those numbers. But you can't do that when there's an ongoing conflict. And I think that's going to be really important to see what plays out. Broadcom is down pre-market. It is down 2.3. Let me see if there's a headline on Broadcom. This is actually one of the only semi names that just went red, given everything is green. Nope, no headline. We probably are going to see a headline soon, or someone is de-risking pretty heavy in the pre-market, but I see zero headline for Broadcom. That is kind of weird. That's not just, people just don't take profits on a stock like that easily. I mean, it could be happening. So, usually Broadcom is in a thematic bucket where like the other semiconductor stocks would fall with it. Google talking with Marvell. Marvell and Google TPU talks. That's not a reason to sell off Broadcom. That's a hell of a reason, though, to buy Marvell. Marvell should be getting, look at that, Marvell. What a freaking stock. This name and Oracle have just crushed. Marvell was 90 a week and a half ago. I mean, some of these Intel, right? Like there's a lot of these semiconductor names. That Bloom Energy got to deal with Oracle last night. This thing's up another 14% after being up 5%. There have been pockets of these semiconductor names that have exploded. But okay, I don't think that's a reason to sell off Broadcom. That's definitely a reason to be excited for Marvell if they're working with Google for TPUs. I don't think that's a reason that Broadcom, which is the number one supplier of these TPUs for Google, deserves to be sold off. But there you go. Market's taking Broadcom down 2% on that headline. They're taking Marvell up 3.84% on that headline. And then continuing on this negotiation potential for the war with Iran, here's a headline we got just from Bloomberg literally 10 minutes ago. Iran is weighing a short-term pause in shipments through the Strait of Hormuz to avoid testing a U.S. Navy blockade and derailing fresh talks with Washington. The move underscores efforts to limit escalation as diplomacy hangs in the balance. That came out 10 minutes ago. That's bullish. That's really freaking bullish. Why is that bullish? Because the Iranians are like, well, we might be talking a big game, but we actually don't want to shoot at a U.S. Navy ship. We think that's kind of not a good idea. That maybe that wouldn't be the best thing in the world for us to do, because I don't think the U.S. is going to hesitate to shoot back. The Chinese came out yesterday and they warned the United States. They were like, look, we're not Iran. Okay, if we get our ship through the Strait of Hormuz and we encounter some U.S. Navy blockade, just make sure you let us go through. Because if you shoot at us, trust us, we're going to be shooting back. And so you had China also call up Pakistan yesterday, Egypt, Turkey, Iran, say, hey, we got to get this resolved. We don't want to get into a conflict with the U.S. Why is this taking so long? And so I think you're getting pressure from the Chinese on the Iranians, obviously because the Chinese buy a lot of cheap oil from them, to get this shit over with. And then you have the Iranians that probably don't actually want to test a U.S. Navy blockade because A, it would undermine diplomacy. B, do you really want to shoot at the United States of America? Probably not the best idea. So all of that put together, along with JD basically confirming that progress has happened on the talks and this idea that 5 and 20 years on nuclear could end up being 10 and they meet in the middle, that is why you are getting this blistering green for stock prices that, quite frankly, Oracle was 175 after earnings. It is still below where it was 3 weeks ago. A lot of these names have not. Amazon was 265 back in November. It was at 200 a couple weeks ago, but at 240, it's not necessarily at euphoric all-time highs. The earnings have gotten better since November. So when you think about it from that perspective, it's like, all right, there you go. It's time for these stocks to potentially make a move. And if you get better news, maybe that better news ends up materializing in a lot more exciting momentum. What did Caitlin say? That's a good question. It was funny because Caitlin broke the news yesterday that the U.S. and Iran are like having renewed talks to stop their uranium enrichment. She was right. Like, she was completely right, because by the end of the day, multiple media outlets had reported that, no, this is true. But she was so afraid of being wrong that she walked back her statements, when in reality, if she just let her statement stand, she would have been the first person to call the story. But the point is, it looks like we're getting some momentum. And if that momentum holds, then, there's a chance that we end up getting back into the bull market. So let me ask the question in the chat and see what people are thinking. Actually, I'm not going to say, are we back? More nuanced question, which is, have you started buying? Have you started buying? So let's do yes, a decent amount, no, not at all, or yes, but not a ton. Those three options. I bought a little bit during the Iran dip, and that was primarily Rocket Lab. The day of the ceasefire, I liquidated the cash in my retirement account and put that into equities. That was Wednesday of last week. And then Friday of last week, Palantir Oracle was kind of the main dip. Outside of that, still have cash. Oh, I did buy a new stock yesterday. Some of you guys are going to hate me for this. Some of you guys are going to love me for this. I did buy a new stock yesterday. But outside of that, still have cash. And, it looks like if we are headed back to, could Robinhood get back to 100? Could Palantir get back to 160? Could some of these names that were already there in January just get back to their levels? Could Google get back to 350? Nvda get back to 200? Nvda is the number one stock I've been buying all year. So that January, February, that was a lot of buys as well. But is it possible for that to continue? By the way, Credo is pumping. The photonics plays are on fire. Credo's up 17% because they acquired a photonics company for $750 million. They were up 12% yesterday. So your Poets, your LWLGs, your AAOIs, your Lumentums, your Coherents, all of those are pumping because of Credo's acquisition. Another name, the market rewarding Credo with another 20% for acquiring a company, which means they're spending almost $1 billion, is bull market behavior. Because usually stocks go down when they have to acquire. This is the market thinking, no, this is expansion, this is TAM, this is revenue, this is growth, this is so much bullishness that we could price in, which is getting the market to be more excited. Okay, I bought Iran. I bought some freaking Iran. I bought it at 43.78, and we're up about 5% on it. I bought some Iran. The reason it's so I don't know that much about Iran. It's more so I think people are getting so bullish Nebius, and people are getting so cynical Iran that Iran announces one deal, and I think this thing catches up. So there it is. Instead of buying more Nebius at 150, which quite frankly might be the better deal. Maybe Nebius is going to 200. I bought Iran at 43. And we'll see if that one ends up catching up. I mean, realistically, it just feels like if this AI super cycle is not stopping and everything is starting to run, either everything is going to top and all these neoclouds are going to fall back down and Oracle is going to go back down to the 140s, or if Iran can just execute and give us a good deal, which I know it's been a long time since we got one, so the ball's in their court, maybe this thing catches up. So that's what I bought yesterday. SMH, that's up 0.72. Nvidia 0.59. Oklo's up 9%. Like Oklo, bro, come on. This was Oklo was $200 back in October of last. The fact that Oklo's running again, it feels more bullish. It feels more bullish, and that's why that momentum is coming back. Yeah, GoPro, that's up another 21% after being up 21% yesterday. Carnival Cruise is up 2%. I almost bought American Airlines yesterday. I missed it, and there you go, up 9%. There you go. This one spiked up as soon as that JD Vance thing came out, because then immediately the market was like, okay, oil is definitely coming down. And then this is your play. Cruise lines, airlines. I still think these are, American Airlines was $16 in January. So if you think this is getting just like a reversion back to not even 16, but like 13.50, 14.50, then there's some more momentum in the airline stocks. UAL also getting a nice bid. Carnival Cruise, Royal Caribbean, all of them benefiting off potentially oil coming down, which is why you're getting some more momentum as well. Zeta pre-markets, we are up another 2%. I don't think Zeta was a 9% worse business on Friday than it is, since it's up 9% from Friday. Same thing with a lot of the software companies. ServiceNow is breaking 90 in the pre-markets. Was ServiceNow really deserving of an $80 stock price back on Friday? Is it 10% better? No, it's probably not. Like, it's just these names got ridiculously oversold as the market just completely got rid of them based on whatever narrative they have on Anthropic, and now you're seeing them rebound. Mongo's up, Adobe's up, Atlassian's up, Salesforce, Oracle, Snowflake, Datadog, Palantir up 2%, 134.86, GitLab, Twilio. Any SaaS dip is getting rewarded, and hopefully that momentum continues to keep doing well. Mossad still seeks Iranian regime change, Israeli spy chief says. Okay, so Mossad might want a regime change, but Trump wants to win the midterms. And so they could want whatever they want, but at this point, if Trump is ready to move on to the midterms, then I don't know if they're going to get this. Last thing I'll say on Trump, and then we'll get into some of the other macro news that I think is really important along with the AI headlines. Trump yesterday had an impromptu press conference at the White House, and a DoorDash driver ended up showing up to the conference. It was a little weird. Obviously, it was staged, and there's a lot of speculation that she doesn't even work at DoorDash, that she was a paid actor, which quite frankly wouldn't be that crazy to imagine, given she made like 5 promotional videos with the White House. They literally were in her car following her. They were driving her. Like, there was a lot of different stuff that went down. So, and there's a lot of politics around this, right? On who this is, why this happened, how it played out. This is Trump handing her a $100 tip. The takeaway from all of this to me, which is what's more bullish than not, is that for the first time in about a month and a half, Trump was talking about the big, beautiful bill. He was talking about no tax on tips, no tax on overtimes. That's the whole reason that he even had this DoorDash driver come to the White House and do the impromptu press conference, so he could ask her about how much she's been saving with no taxes on tips, and he could highlight the narrative around the big, beautiful bill. Over the past month and a half, the only thing we've heard from Trump is, I'm going to blow up Iran. They better not have a nuke. Iran better not touch our ships, yada, yada. Like, it's been this hostile, volatile vocabulary around a geopolitical nuclear threat that, quite frankly, most Americans, if you ask them, why are we fighting Iran? Why did we go into Iran? They probably couldn't give you a reasonable answer. And I think for the first time in a while, Trump is getting ready to shift the narrative and refocus on the thing that he knows is the most important thing to win the midterms, objectively, before he switched into geopolitics and the Iranian war, which is affordability and the economy. And so I think the thing to take away from yesterday's event, and this is really what I think no one is talking about. Everyone's talking about the politics of like bringing a DoorDash driver, or how it looks bad, or how it looks really good, or all this. Like, none of that matters. What matters is the fact that the White House staged an appearance around economic mobility, taxes, and affordability to highlight and streamline the confidence that the American people should have in the big, beautiful bill before they get into the midterms. That is what really, really matters from all of this. So what does the playbook look like? There is a bearish case and a bullish case as Bitcoin keeps pumping. The bearish case is that negotiations fail. We go back into war. Oil spikes up. Stock market goes down. Trump loses the midterms. The bullish case is we end the war. Oil goes down. Stocks go up. Labor market normalizes. And then come November, Trump gets to say, not only did I give you lower inflation, not only did I give you lower oil prices, not only did I give you jobs, not only did I give you no taxes on tips and overtime, not only did I give you the biggest refund you've ever seen in the history of tax refunds, but I am also keeping your kids safe from a crazy radical nuclear Iran. And that message 7 months from now might actually be a winning message versus the message of I can't pay my rent, but the president wants me to focus on World War III and geopolitics and safety from a nuclear Iran. And so from that perspective, I think that's another reason to be a bit more bullish than bearish here, because Trump is kind of pivoting to focusing more about the economy for the first time in a while. And because he's focusing on the economy, obviously the stock market really likes that because the stock market is rooted in the economy continuing to grow. And so we're going to see what happens. But Mike says, what refund? Yeah, tomorrow's tax day. I'm also not getting a refund, but for the people that do get a refund, it's going to matter, right? They're going to attribute that with a more positive feeling. And if Trump can tap into that sentiment by ending the war and then focusing on the economy, that's where you could see more momentum for him going into the end of the year. Bitcoin right there, 74.6. The fact that Bitcoin is coming back, this was 67,000 last week. Gold, by the way, up 1%, silver up 3%. The fact that Bitcoin, the biggest risk on asset, is coming back also gives me a lot of confidence in seeing some more momentum in risk on assets. Is good for Robinhood, Coinbase, MicroStrategy, all that stuff. So it is very nice to see, and hopefully that continues. Okay, earnings. We got about 15 minutes until the market opens. We had a bunch of earnings this morning. JP Morgan crushed it. Let's pull this up right here, and then we'll get into the other banks. Pretty much every bank beat and raised on EPS and revenue, buying back their stock, healthy dividend. I mean, the banks look like they are not in a bad spot.
Yeah. Thank you, Joe. Yeah, you could see shares of JP Morgan up about 1% after a beat on both the top and bottom lines here. EPS coming in at $5.94 per share. Revenue on a managed basis was about $50.5 billion, and net income up about 13% to $16.5 billion during the quarter. A lot of attention this quarter, of course, on what's going on in the markets division of each of these banks. And JP Morgan had a great quarter here. Markets revenue up 20% year over year. Fixed income markets were up 21%, and equity markets were up about 17%. So the fixed income markets, at least how much they're higher, is definitely a difference from what we saw with Goldman Sachs. Yes,
they absolutely crushed it. The biggest issue with Goldman Sachs was that they missed by 10% on their fixed income business. I mean, JP Morgan you're getting the exact opposite. And as a result of getting the opposite level of momentum here, that's why you're seeing is the stock actually up? Stock in the pre-market is up a little bit, but you're seeing at least a bit of a move, which is what's the most important thing right here. Again, beat on revenue by 8%, or beat on EPS by 8%, beat on revenue by 2%. Revenue's up 10% year over year. EPS is up 17% year over year. So that's pretty good momentum. Then you had Citibank beat by 16% on EPS. Then they beat by 4% on revenue. EPS is up 56% year over year. Revenue is up 14% year over year. So once again, I mean, these are not tech company numbers, but there are a lot of tech companies that actually don't put up this type of revenue growth or EPS growth. And they have a higher multiple than some of the other companies that are doing that, which is very encouraging to see that the banks continue to be in a good spot. You also had BlackRock, very, very important company. They beat by 9% on EPS, beat by 4% on revenue. Once again, these financial institutions showing that their trading volumes, assets under management, et cetera, are pretty much at all-time highs. And as a result, I think that you see the market kind of rewarding them. Wells Fargo missed by 2% on revenue, very small miss on revenue. Revenue was up 6% year over year. EPS was up 15% year over year. They beat by 1% on EPS. And you're just seeing the banks end up doing well. JP Morgan reported, but Johnson & Johnson also did report, and J&J Pharmaceuticals, they crushed it. 270 versus 268 on EPS, 24 billion versus 23.3. Expected. They beat by 2% on revenue, beat by 1% on EPS. I mean, outside of Goldman, which had a very small miss on fixed income that caused the market to be a little bit afraid yesterday. JP Morgan, that's green. BlackRock, that's up 2.38%. BlackRock fell below 900 at one point last quarter. J&J, Johnson & Johnson, that is down 1.4%, but relatively strong earnings compared to what they put out. And then Citigroup, which has been one of the best performing banks over 2025, that's like up another 2%, 128.40 in the pre-market. So I know a lot of people here don't own the banks, but the banks are really important in order to establish a framework of financial stability and health for the market to then think the tech companies are worthy of giving a premium to. ASML reports tonight at like 1 a.m. Eastern, and then you have TSM. ASML, sorry, it's tomorrow morning. TSM is tomorrow night, not after the close, but like at 1 a.m. because they're in Taiwan. And then you have Netflix on Thursday. So the next 2 days are going to be filled with a lot of earnings. And if those earnings can continue to live up to the hype, I mean, we're going to be seeing some more momentum, which is going to be very nice to see. What about the private credit headline? So I have not looked through all of the bank earnings yet or the transcripts. I'm going to be very curious to see what they say about private credit. Obviously, Jamie Dimon is still pretty bearish on private credit, but he did say in his letter to investors, I think last week, that it's not a 2008 level event. So his argument is like, it's not as serious as people are thinking. There's definitely some cockroaches, but it's not, the worst thing in the world. And if you believe him on that, then, private credit should not be a systemic risk to not invest. Bitcoin right there, 74.6. Amcor, look at that, 62 in the pre-market, up 2.8%. Nebius, basically 160, 159.97 in the pre-market. Oklo is up. You're just seeing a lot of momentum. Fastly, I've not bought it yet. I am interested in it, but that's up another 2%. Micron up 1.5%. DoorDash up 0.53. By the way, the reason SanDisk ran so hard yesterday, for people that are wondering why is Micron not moving with it, they got included into the NASDAQ. So they took Atlassian out, they put SanDisk in, and that's why that created more momentum on SanDisk. And this stock is, if you put 30,000 into it last year in April, you would be up $1 million right now. So, I mean, there are generational plays in the stock market. Now, would you have held up to $1 million? I don't know. Like, if you put 30,000 in something, realistically, how many people are holding to $1 million? I don't think I would have held to $1 million, dude. If I was up like, if I was even up to like 60,000, I'd be like, 30,000 more is not. I put 30, I got 30 back, I'm good. So, I don't know if I would have held to $1 million, but the point is, the people that did hold made a lot of money, and the fact that those opportunities even existed were incredible. Look at Meta back above 640. In the pre-market. Like, this is more bullish than not, and it's exciting to see that. SK Hynix hit an all-time high, which is why you're seeing South Korea get some more momentum. Samsung hit an all-time high. You're probably going to get Micron and SanDisk, Western Digital, Seagate kind of match those levels. You're just really seeing a lot more excitement. S&P 500 is at 688. Sam says he can talk about Fastly. All right, Sam, we'll get you on probably on Wednesday. Wednesday close. Let's have Sam on because Jason and I have started some due diligence. Jason actually bought it yesterday. So I haven't bought it yet, but Jason, he told me yesterday he did buy. So I would love to get your opinion on it, Sam, and we can go deeper on it. Bessent is live. We're going to get some quotes from him. He's at some Bloomberg conference. So we'll be able to see what he's saying. We haven't heard from him in a minute on economic issues. So it's nice to see him talking more about the economy. He said, global imbalances buildup is the biggest risk. The world cannot deal with China if they have $1 trillion in surpluses, which means we have to sell them more stuff. And he says the Fed should stay on hold amid Iran war. Wow, Bessent saying the Fed shouldn't cut or raise during the Iran war. He expects cuts eventually, but says uncertainty justifies caution. The Fed remains on hold despite pressure from President Trump. That's actually incredible because Trump wants them to cut, but Bessent saying, you know what? As someone who's dealt with the Fed for a long time, they probably shouldn't do anything right now until this war is over. 688 S&P. In the pre-markets. IONQ, is that moving right now? That is up 6%. So I did say yesterday, I said in the morning, Nvidia is having a quantum day. I don't know if that's the reason why the quantum name, look at them. QBTS up 5%, IONQ up 6%, Rigetti, that is up 3%. We talked about that yesterday in the morning as a potential trade idea, which is that Jensen himself just saying quantum or any quotes going viral about what he says about quantum, that could be enough to spike these stocks. And the fact that all three of them are getting a move, maybe there's something more specific. IONQ wins a DARPA contract for next-gen quantum networking. Well, they won it on a great day because NVIDIA is about to say a lot of bullish stuff about quantum as well. IONQ awarded DARPA contract, focus on quantum memories using synthetic diamond materials. The technology enables interconnects across multiple qubit types. I don't know exactly what that fully means because I'm not fully well-versed in quantum, but the point is if they're winning a contract and there's real revenue associated with that, and Jensen's about to talk them up today, yeah, it makes sense why the quantum names are getting momentum. Amazon acquiring GST, yes, or GSAT. So we talked about this 2 weeks ago when this was announced. Amazon's going to be buying them at $90 a share, I believe. That is the acquisition price. It's not confirmed yet, which is why you're not seeing them kind of gap up at the level that they're being gapped up at, which is kind of weird, right? Like, if they're being bought out at 90, why is the stock only 78? You would think it gets to like 87, 88. Usually there's a small arbitrage, but I feel like it should be more than that. So that is kind of, there's got to be something I'm missing there for why GSAT is not closer to 90. That type of, like an 8% arbitrage usually doesn't exist there. But Amazon is officially, April 14th, they announced a definitive agreement to buy them, $11.57 billion. And as a result of that agreement, GSAT is officially going under Amazon. The deal closes next year and it's not finalized. Okay, so that's fair. There's always uncertainty in the market on if the deal will close, especially when you have a big company like Amazon that ends up doing the buying, which potentially leads to the market not believing it. But if they get it approved and you could buy it at 78 with a guarantee that it's going to get bought out at 90, that's a $12 increase from here, guaranteed. Is a pretty good deal. I guess you just have to take the risk on, if Amazon ends up getting approved right there. Amazon right there at 244 in the pre-market, GSAT at 78. Look at Amazon finally starting to get some love. This is what we need. You need the war to end so the market can remember that Amazon is one of the most important companies on planet Earth and should not be trading at its lowest EV to EBITDA multiple in history. 243.65, up 1.58% in the pre-market. Nvidia as at 190. Meta Compute Unit is trying to think carefully about the investment of almost $600 billion that the company is deploying over the next 5 years, as per Semaphore. Meta Compute Unit is trying to think very carefully, as per Meta's Dina Powell, which makes sense. I mean, they're investing $600 billion. Obviously, they're going to try to invest it carefully. As much as the street cares about their CapEx spend, the street really cares about the ROI on that CapEx spend, particularly in new models. And if they can increase momentum in those new models, and that's why you're probably going to see some more momentum. Lucid is getting a new investment from the Saudis. They're getting a commitment from Uber. That's why that stock is up the pre-market. Here's what the CEO said earlier this morning.
How much is that on your list to look at the existing plans, existing products, and say, let's just focus on the main thing?
It's very high on the priority. As a matter of fact, I believe deciding what we don't do is going to be as important, if not more, than deciding on what we do. I'm an engineer myself. I can see the excitement engineers experience when given a new challenge. And so our goal will be to channel that excitement in the projects that have the highest return for our shareholders.
Uber is giving them another $750 million along with the Saudis. I don't know who still believes in Lucid. I mean, this thing, I think, has been a relatively failed experiment for the past decade. But Lucid right there, up 5%. The Saudis and Uber just keep pumping money into them, thinking it'll work. And it doesn't really end up working. But there you go. Lucid right there, getting some momentum. The fact that a stock like Lucid is also gaining momentum. I have 5 shares at an average of 128. Yeah, I mean, this thing was your classic 2021 pump and dump. But the fact that even that's going green shows you how much bullish momentum is really out there without the level of euphoria, because obviously the Max 7 still are not trading at those excessive multiples. You also had an update with Amazon and Apple today. That was another reason why Amazon's getting some love. Amazon is going to be powering Apple's satellites. And Apple, which has their own different proprietary satellites that they put on to kind of track your iPhone and Apple Health. The idea of Amazon acquiring Globalstar and expanding Amazon Leo satellite network, which they now have over 200 satellites, that's going to be doing well for the iPhone and Apple Watch models, allowing users to text emergency services, message friends and family, request roadside assistance, and more. Hopefully, WWDC in June, you're going to get some more momentum from Apple, and they announced some really cool stuff in regards to AI. But the fact that they're getting the infrastructure necessary in order to support that via different satellites from Amazon, which is good because this is another part of Amazon's business. They're like an octopus. They have their tentacles everywhere to be able to continue getting more business. That is very good for Amazon and Apple. Okay, a couple other pieces of macro updates before we get into the market open. Take a look at this. Hedge funds have covered their short position last week at the fastest pace in more than a decade. This is from Goldman Sachs and their daily chart book. Hedge funds went short pretty aggressively 3 weeks ago. Hedge funds are now covering their shorts at the fastest level in history based on the fastest increase in history that they had on shorting the market. Obviously, they started shorting because of the U.S. war. It looks like they are starting to cover those shorts. That is bullish. I think the hedge funds do not want to once again be at the whims of Trump giving a massive V-shaped recovery like he did last April and being on the wrong side of it. And so I think hedge funds would rather be more bullish than bearish here, because if they see the war is coming to an end, they see earnings growth, they see oil's coming down, there is literally no reason for them to be short. Maybe they don't deploy all their capital, but they don't have to be short. And as a result of not being short, you're going to probably see some more momentum across the broader market. On top of that, you have commodity trading advisors. Goldman Sachs says, we think they're going to be buying a lot more. These are different strategic advisors that essentially buy or sell based on market conditions. And Goldman is saying in 2/3 of the scenarios that we are plotting out, we think CTAs are ready to buy. Now, what happened over the past month? CTAs were selling. They sold about $65 billion aggressively in U.S. equities. It looks like, based on what Goldman is saying, we think that momentum has shifted and CTAs are absolutely ready to buy. Remember, the short interest on XLK, which is the tech sector of the S&P 500, is still the highest it's been since 2016. So you're talking about people that are definitely positioned for downside exposure, that are covering. You're talking about commodity trading advisors that are getting ready to buy. And then you have all these different forms of momentum in regards to the war ending, oil coming down, earnings growth, et cetera. Like, there's just way too many catalysts here to be super bearish. Maybe you can be skeptical. Maybe you can be a little bit, all right, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to buy Nebius at 150. I'm going to let this thing chill out a little bit. But if it leaves the station, it leaves the station, which it's doing already in the pre-market 2 minutes before we open. 161 on Nebius right here. And if it does leave the station and you have the big guys that get with the train as it's leaving the station, then it's really going to leave the station, right? Because then the big guys are powering the train. And so based on that and based on all the updates from the war, it just seems like, yes, today could be a little bit of a breather. My goodness, Oracle is almost 170 in the pre-market. But if this stuff doesn't consolidate and it's more of a V-shape up, then we're going green. Then we are going green. Absolutely incredible. Massive, massive move. Let's see if this can continue. We got about a minute until the market opens. PPI came in, for those that missed it, 3.8% versus 4.1 expected. The core was at 4 versus 4.46. Not as bad as what people expected. It was a bad print, the worst since February 2023, but it wasn't as bad as people expected, which is all the market cares about. And quite frankly, if the war is ending, the market really does not care about PPI right now. Robinhood, could you imagine if Hoodie comes back from the dead and gives us that $100 target once again? I mean, this thing has been stuck for 4 months, down 40% year to date. If Bitcoin comes back, bull market momentum comes back. I know Hood has some obstacles that they have to get over, but if you get that excitement and you get a lot of these stocks that just end up getting back to levels that they are at, even if they don't get back to all-time highs, you're just going to see a lot more people get excited. Rocket Lab, 73 in the pre-market. Palantir trying to go for 135. Bloom Energy, 14%. Oracle up another 7%. Let's see if today can really hold on to some of this excitement. It would be the 10th green day in a row since November 2023. And if we can get that, maybe we have more green days coming up. Tuesday, April 14th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your ass up. Let's get into it. S&P 688.43. 688.43 on the S&P 500. Let's see if there is the potential to get into that range of 690. Robinhood, 76. Robinhood, 76. Someone in the chat, I think Hala Beast, bought $1.3 million of Robinhood yesterday at like $70. Congrats. He's up like 100K right now. Congratulations. Absolutely incredible. $76 on Robinhood. That's up 6%. Nebius, 162. 162 on Nebius. 5.3%. Never mind, 163. 163. Amcor, 62. BlackRock's up 3%. Zeta's up 3%. American Airlines is up 5%. Iren, 4506. That is up 4%. Marvell is up 3.5%. Credo is up 15%. IGV Software, look at that. Trying to get back to 80. Trying to get back to 80. Palantir, there she is. So beautiful. So beautiful. 135.63. If anyone bought the dip on Palantir, 122 to 128, 129 range. I know a lot of people at least bought a little bit around that range. There you go, 135. We might be getting back to a little bit of where we used to be. And, we kind of were around 140, 150 for the past couple months. Maybe we get back to that range. Rocket Lab, 73.80. That's green. BMNR's up 3%. MicroStrategy's up 4%. Bloom Energy, 202. That's up 14%. Oracle, 165, up 6%. Oracle and Bloom Energy announced a deal for 2.8 gigawatts of energy yesterday. Oracle benefited, but Bloom really benefited. And both of those stocks doing incredible right there. MicroStrategy's up 4%. Bitcoin's moving. Tesla's at 360. You're getting some momentum there. Google at 324. Oklo at 58.58. That's up 8%. Nvda, 192. Wow. Okay, Nvidia's moving. Nvidia's moving. Nvidia doesn't want to play around anymore. Tesla, 360. This was at 338. So it's very nice to see Tesla get a bit more of that momentum. SanDisk going red is not that crazy. The stock was up like 20% in the past week, giving some of the gains back. Not wild to see. Nebius back at 161.84. Robinhood up 7%. Snowflake up 3%. Red Cat up 3%. OSS, which got a great contract yesterday. That stock up from the 750s, and it is green. Amazon, a lot of us own Amazon. It is time to see this bad boy break out. They give us a good earnings. AWS continues to accelerate and margins go up. I mean, this thing was at 265 in November. Not crazy to imagine it could at least get close back to those levels. S&P 688. 688. Wow, even Grab's moving today. Even Grab is getting some love. That is a broad-based rally that we are seeing across the entire markets. Grab's up 3%. C Limited is up 2%. How about Nubank? That should be green. Nubank is up 2.45%. The VIX is down 4.3, which is incredible. Microsoft, $390. Microsoft was, if I'm not wrong, at 57 at some point. So it is nice to see you're getting some more excitement right here in the context of some of these large caps that took a big hit. Amazon 244, KLAC that's up 0.9. Nvidia is going for 193. She's not stopping. Robinhood 67. Oscar is at 1578. That's up 2%. Oscar was at 11 last week though, so you have a 35% move. Got to be happy with that. SoFi. I mean, there's no reason SoFi shouldn't be up. All the banks are crushing earnings. SoFi is going to grow faster than all the banks. Muddy Waters, by the way, is doubling down on this freaking SoFi thing. He posted again yesterday that all of their profits are fake and that SoFi should be investigated for fraud. Has this guy lost his mind? Has he actually lost? He's saying the billion in EBITDA they're doing is all fake. It's not real. Like, I'm genuinely like, who is paying this guy to be like, this is not some meme stock. Like, this is a legit company. Like, this is one of the largest, well, not one of the largest, but it's on its way to becoming one of the larger banks in the country. And he's saying everything they're doing is fake. So I don't know, very weird, but that momentum going the opposite direction. S&P 688.50. AMD, are we seeing 250? AMD, not 250 yet, but at 247. But at 247. GSAT, Amazon is buying them. GSAT is 79.12. Again, they're buying them for 90. Stocks at 79. Maybe there is an arbitrage play there if the deal goes through, but that stock is kind of chilling at that level. Coinbase 183. That's up 5.4%. Affirm's up 3.5. TSM's up 1.6. Adobe is up 0.68. Let me check the poll that I asked earlier. Okay, so 35% said yes, you started buying. 35% said yes, I started buying, but not a lot. And 30% said no. So let's call it 70% of people have bought something. 30% of people are more cautious, which is fair. The question is going to be for anyone who's cautious is this rally fake? Is this rally overextended? And quite frankly, is this war actually coming to an end? If we don't get real updates on when the war is going to be resolved, then yeah, all those arguments could be true. But if we start to see more positive updates, then maybe the market doesn't have to really rip like crazy because we've already had a big rip, but at least doesn't have to give back these gains. That's the most important thing. Oklo 12.8, SMH all-time highs on the semiconductor names, and then Nvidia 192. Nvidia 192 as that's getting some more love. Orbs is up 7.3%. SoFi trying to go for 18. Oracle really catching a big bid right here, 167 again. It was at 170 before or after the earnings. So look at that candle, dude. 134 to 167. Absolutely crazy. SMR, that is green. NuScale Power up 13%. IONQ again from that DARPA contract. That's getting some love. And I think that's pumping all the quantum names. Wow, 9%. I mean, if quantum's getting some love again as well, but the entire sector that's kind of been hit over the past couple months, you're starting to see maybe that bullish action or at least excitement come back into fray. ServiceNow, that's up 3%, 91.89. Broadcom recovers from that ridiculous dip that it had. Dude, this is the market gives you these opportunities, right? So if you got to buy Broadcom 2% cheaper 10 minutes ago because Marvell is working with Google, then there you go. Broadcom getting back to normal. Marvell, though, 3.4%. 135. 135 on that screen. Fastly down 5%. Okay. So you're seeing that one get hit. IoT, how about that one? That one's up 2.5. IoT is making a move. Fastly is on the downside move. Let's see if there are other SaaS names that are down. And now you're seeing most of them kind of hold up right there. Atlassian, Mongo, Adobe, Service. Now Adobe back in the 240s. This thing was at 220. Wow, pound here. Almost 130 freaking 7. Almost 137 right here. Oh my goodness, Amazon. Let me check 250 resistance. Seeing a 250 handle there would be crazy. Amazon at 250. We're going to have to overcome 662,000 shares. That's going to be a little hard, but it is indeed possible. Microsoft 393. That's up 2.3%. Marvell, that's up 3%. IONQ, that's up 8%. SoFi, back to 18. Back to 18. Which feels bullish. Feels more bullish than not that SoFi's trying to get back to that level. AMD, that's up. Oscar, 1579, that's up 2%. Nubank, that's up 2.9. Grab, up 3.6. Affirm's up 3. APLD, look at that. That's up freaking 7% on the day. Nebius, are we still holding 160? We are, yeah, 162. Nebius has completely entered price discovery. And if like a dip to 140 would look aggressive now, right? Whereas 140 used to be the all-time high. So, I mean, you're just getting a lot of buyers that are in. The story, it made sense to them and they're in. It's over. Like now they are buyers of this name. And any dip, you probably get buyers once again thinking that's a better opportunity than not. Unless it's a broad market meltdown. And if it is, you're probably going to get a lot of people that are excited to buy Nebius. 163 right there. Oscar's still up 2. Oracle almost at 170. Bloom over 200. Credo again. Credo is still down, or it was down year to date. They were up at like 160 in January. Then they fell pretty aggressively, but then Photonics started getting a lot more love. They acquired a photonics company yesterday, and the market is giving them that premium back. So it's really nice to see some of these companies reach their January highs that they used to have. LWLG, that one, I know people are looking at the photonics space. That one's down about 4.48% as it's getting a bid to the downside. Poet's also down 1.29%. Celsius is up 3. What about UNH? Is that moving? UNH is at 317. That one, after those CMS rates officially changed, that is also moving, which is very, very nice, at least for some of these broader stocks that are, or at least some of these broader healthcare plays that are trying to catch a bid. SoFi right there, just below that $18 level. IoT up 2. Palantir, wow, 130, almost 137. Rocket Lab, a little bit of a red candle right there. Why is ASTS down? That's a good question. ASTS, why is ASTS down? That's a little aggressive, wouldn't you think? Right? That's a little intense. 7%. Oh my, that's not like Rocket Lab, right? Let me see if I can find an explanation here on what's happening. Amazon news? Really? Amazon news? You guys think the acquisition of GSAT was the reason for that? But we didn't see that in the pre-market, right? Did we? Was ASTS down in the pre-market, or I don't think I checked it. That is, I feel like we would have noticed it if it was down that much. Rocket Lab starting to get a bit of a red candle to the downside. It was okay. I guess I didn't see it. All right, so that's Amazon. That's not as serious then if that's Amazon. I mean, usually when stocks fall because companies acquire competitors. I mean, remember what happened to ASTS when SpaceX acquired, I forgot whatever company in September. It went to $36 from $70, and then 3 months later it was at $130. So I don't think that should be that serious. SPY almost at 690. almost at 690. AMD goes red. SanDisk, again, this thing went up a lot. Like this thing was at 600 a couple of weeks ago. So a 5% pullback from 920. Like it's just not something I think people can get too upset about. But you are seeing some pain right there. BM&R, that's up 5%. MicroStrategy as well, that is up 5% as well. It dumped at 930. Yeah, okay. So that was the Amazon news that came out. KLAC, that's up 0.74. I mean, the question now is going to be how much can we hold a lot of this momentum? You're seeing some cracks come in, which are probably healthy, quite frankly, more than not. But if these stocks can settle into some of these ranges, even if they stay there, I don't think the street's going to be, I don't think people are going to be too upset, and the street's probably going to have more time to end up buying some of these names. Microsoft, 393. That one's not slowing down at all. Amazon as well. Amazon and Microsoft just moving. How about Google? Can we get back to 330? Google very close at 325. CoreWeave, we didn't look at that today. CoreWeave is 115. CoreWeave was $68 2 weeks ago. 67.15 to be exact on March 30th. This is almost a double in 15 days. Like unfreaking believable, dude. Absolutely incredible. Nebius 162, IREN 45. So again, I did buy IREN yesterday. My average is 43.87. The entire logic was maybe it catches up with a Nebius and a CoreWeave because they have vastly outperformed. And I don't think that thesis is crazy. I know they have the dilution. Like I know obviously there's a lot of bearish elements to it, which is why it hasn't performed. But if they announce another hyperscaler deal, I think you get people finally catching up to it. And if they announce it with Anthropic, I think people really get excited. But they have to actually announce something like that. Yeah, ASTX still getting hit. The VIX, VIX is down 4. VIX is now below 20. Bitcoin 75. Did we hit it? Yes, we didn't just hit it. We went past it. It was at 74.3 during the beginning of the market open. That's a $850 candle there. Look at that. 75.2 on Mr. BTC. IGV, this is a much needed recovery. Look at this V. All the way 83 to 73. This was the time to buy, April 13th. Whatever you bought, no matter what it is inside of IGV, it's up right now. Some of them more than others, but it did make a move, and now you're getting right back into that $80 range. Where's CrowdStrike? Look at that. Looks exactly like IGV. 450 to 364, back to 408. Oracle, Palantir look like that as well. Rocket Lab getting back to 72.40. Oracle 168. It is nice to see. Do you own any Bitcoin a bit? I really don't own a ton of Bitcoin, but I have a lot of HOOD, which to me, people got mad at me last year when I said HOOD is a Bitcoin proxy. They're like, no, you don't get it. I'm like, dude, literally, it was a Bitcoin proxy. Like too much of a Bitcoin proxy, to be honest. So I think I have enough exposure to magic money, and it comes in the way of robbing it. But no, in all seriousness, I do respect Bitcoin. Like I feel like I am orange pilled. I just love investing in stocks more than I don't even have gold and stuff like that. I don't really like commodities or macro assets. Like I like businesses. So that's the main reason I don't have a ton of Bitcoin. But I feel like if Robinhood has exposure to it, then it's you don't need it. Palantir, are we going for 137? Are we going for it? We touched it actually, 136.79. We did touch it. Let's see if we can get back above there. White House, we are establishing a national initiative for American space nuclear power. Okay, see, I mean, there's more stuff from the White House that's not about this war. Like you got the White House going back to doing their daily press release of something super important that Trump hypes up as like a big deal. Like that stuff to me feels like he's shifting focus and he wants to get through with this war and end up getting a deal. I don't know if that might end up pumping the space and the nuclear stocks because the White House is introducing a American space nuclear power initiative. But if it does, then you're seeing a lot more momentum hit into other sectors. Nebius trying to go for 164. Trying to go for 164. Credo getting some more love. That is starting to recover. GE Nova. This one dumping is not that crazy. It's up like 70% year to date. Also, it's not dumping. It's, I guess, dumped from the pre-market, but it's flat. It's down $2. But a lot of these names taking a breather. You just can't be too upset at them. Like They made such a big run. Got to give them a little breathing room. S&P, though, look at that. 3 cents away from 690. Robinhood at $78. Bloom at 204. IONQ up 10. Kevin says, do I trim Nebius when I'm up 100%? Honestly, this comes down to conviction because Nebius is in price discovery mode. I saw a lot of posts yesterday of people on X trimming Nebius. I mean, I know one guy who's super bullish. He said, I sold 70% of my position. I was like, dude, like I've been following your posts for like the past month and you were like Nebius, and you sold 70% of it yet. But, you know, when you're sitting on a lot of money and a lot of gains, you know, sometimes people, they want to take the profits. And then you have the other people. I saw some account that has like 50,000 shares of Nebius. He's like, I'm not selling a single freaking share. And so the answer is, how convicted are you that Nebius holds on? My honest opinion would be, if I'm up 100% on this, which means I bought it at 80, it's at 163. My margin of safety is so high, even if it collapses back to 130, am I going to be that upset? No. Do I think it's going back to 80? Probably not. And so I would probably hold, honestly. If now, Grant, if you want to risk mitigate and say, I want to buy more Nvda or Google because that's safer than Nebius because I'm not too worried about all the dilution and unprofitability. You know, there's all these different things you can bring into fruition to kind of make the argument for holding or selling. But at this point, if you held for 100% move, maybe you might as well just keep holding there. Feds, Goolsby, the longer this goes, if inflation stays up, that pushes rate cuts out of 2026. I guess Goolsby is live. We haven't heard from him in a minute. Nonfiction says, yup, I sold my Nebius. I mean, put in the chat. I still have not sold those covered calls. I mean, I sold Nebius at 105. Probably wasn't the best decision, but de-risk to Nvidia. That was, you know, kind of at least the way that I was framing it 3 weeks ago. But the remaining half of my shares that I kept, I still have not sold covered calls on it. And it's hilarious because that $200 May covered call just keeps going up in premium. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like it's every day it's up another $2. But put in the chat, are you selling? Are you rolling covered calls? Are you selling puts on this? Like, how are you kind of playing this right here? Are you trimming? Which I don't think is too crazy to do here. But also, if you held on forever, then maybe you just keep holding on. Broadcom 380, that's making a move. AMD 247, Nubank at 1537. Alib says I'm rolling forever. Bree says I'm trimming. Demir says I'm trimming. Thober says I bought at 30. I'm holding. Yeah, so if you bought at 30, right? Like I bought at 108. I bought at 97, average down to like around that 97, 98 range. So to me, it was just like, you know, it wasn't the type of conviction with a pound here, with a hood, or with like a Rocket Lab if you got in really early. But if you did, Nebius ends up becoming your name, right? That you called from the beginning, and maybe you kind of just let the winner ride. Corey, 117 as that one's moving. The reason hood's up is because of Bitcoin, for those that are asking. I think that's like the main reason. 9% move on Robinhood. So for those who bought that hood dip yesterday, there you go. 9% up. Photonic's kind of dumping. That is correct. Poet, this stock, 720. That's down 2%. LWLG, that's down. AAOI. By the way, did you guys know Citron? AOI is down 5%. Do you know Citron is short freaking SanDisk 45% ago? Citron was short SanDisk 45% ago. He's also short AAOI. So, yeah, I wonder if AAOI ends up pulling a 50% move on this guy as well, because at some point he's going to have to cover, unless he thinks SanDisk is just going to, you know, collapse again. I'm seeing a lot of people saying they're trimming their Nebius. Look, I don't hate it. I mean, at the end of the day, it has had a big run, and some people might have trimmed too early. I definitely trimmed a bit too early, but I also felt more comfortable in my portfolio, which is why investing is such a personal thing, right? De-risking and being able to allocate into stuff that helps you sleep at night. But I, you know, I didn't trim Robinhood super early last year. I held on to the asset, held on to the risk, held on to the anxiety that I had to deal with every day. And I was rewarded. And that's why the market is so beautiful, because if you held on to Nebius through all the shit that it's been through over the past 2 months, a lot of people didn't. And if you held on to it, you deserve the gains. The question then becomes, is Nebius at 160, Robinhood at 150? Where, you know, you could see a lot of those gains retrace. I don't think so. Because, I mean, look, Nebius is at 40 billion right now. Robinhood was at 120 billion. There's a difference in market cap. Although Robinhood was extremely profitable with amazing operating margins, Nebius is going to have to keep diluting, and they're not as profitable. So there are different nuances, and I guess you have to kind of square those up when you're trying to analyze, you know, is this thing so overbought that there's a big retracement coming? But also, Robinhood wasn't in a sector that is fiery red hot in regards to data center, AI, and compute. Robinhood is in trading. And if trading goes away or trading goes down, which is what we saw over the past couple months, Robinhood goes down. If data centers keep expanding like Nebius, then I don't think Nebius has to have that 50, 60% retracement. Because if it does, Oracle, CoreWeave, Iren, all of those are probably going down with it. Pounds right there, 136.50. Bloom Energy not stopping, 205. 205. ASTS still getting clobbered by this Amazon news, 6.2% down as that's getting hit. CoreWeave, yes, is shorted about 30%, so that also could be exciting for it. Adobe now losing a lot of its momentum. That's basically flat on the day. TSM, they have earnings soon. That's up 1.75%. Iren is pushing up, 46.18. 46.18. Nvda give us 193. Nvda, we are just 2 cents away from 193. Would you trim Oracle? No, absolutely not. Absolutely. I'm going to come out with an article soon on Oracle, but like I thought about it yesterday because you're up 15% in 48 hours. Like you would think, all right, let me trim it. It's like, no, dude, this thing it should have never got to 130. It should absolutely have never gotten. A lot of these SaaS names should not have gotten to the level they got to, but Oracle in particular should not have gotten to the 130s. Like the market was just having a hissy fit on Friday when they sold them off. Oh, Oracle has software as part of their overall business, therefore it needs to be sold off. It's like, no, that's insanity. So I don't really think that was deserving of it. Someone asked me, would you sell Bloom or Oracle yesterday based on the deal? Bloom, I don't know about as much as Oracle. Obviously, Bloom is technically more expensive than Oracle on a traditional valuation basis, but the high beta in Bloom, along with the sector that it's in, again, around that sort of thematic around energy, I mean, that's more attractive than Oracle, quite frankly. So Bloom is up 130% this year, which means maybe, you know, that would warrant taking some profits. Oracle year to date is still down 15%. So Oracle is an absolute no trim for me. Bloom, maybe, but then again, it comes down to conviction. You got to really know how much you believe in their solution to energy. Amcor right there, 61. Amcor 61. What's your Oracle average? 137.89. 137.89. Zeta's up 3. United Airlines is up 1. American Airlines up 7. Yeah, Bloom's potential growth is insane. They are going to be growing faster than Oracle. So, I mean, if you're talking about pure growth, that's another reason to hold on. Adobe goes red. Adobe goes red. ASTS still getting hit. What about Lumentum and Coherent? Are those getting hit? Yeah, Lumentum down 2. It was down yesterday as well. Coherent is down 1.4. By the way, for those that have, two things. First of all, remember that Claude portfolio, this guy that gave Claude 50 grand and said invest in stocks, which is trained by Anthropic. The first stock it bought was ServiceNow, which is down 70% because of Anthropic. The next stock it bought was freaking Adobe. This Claude portfolio is just going out there and buying all the software stocks that its maker, Anthropic, ended up tanking. And so it's quite hilarious to see. But this is NVIDIA's portfolio. Intel, Synopsys, Lumentum, Coherent, Marvell, CoreWeave, Nebius, Nokia, Lilly, which, by the way, Lilly had a deal with OpenAI the other day, and Novo had a new deal with OpenAI, so we'll talk about that. But this is what NVIDIA owns. And all these stocks have had a pretty nice run, some of them better than others. But Jensen don't miss. I mean, Jensen has called some winners this year. And it's a little bit of a risk, right? When you take the 60, 70 billion you have in cash and you're telling all your shareholders, hey, we believe in Lumentum, we believe in Nokia, and like we believe in Synopsys. And then, you know, people have to say, like, is Jensen, what is he doing, right? But he's made really good investments. Intel, I think, was the most controversial. And Intel's up like 80% since he bought. No, it's way more than 80%. It's up at like 200%. He bought it like 22. It's at 63. Intel now is approaching AMD's market cap, which is kind of crazy. AMD's at 405. Intel's at 320. So, yeah, the NVIDIA portfolio itself has also started to do very well. NVIDIA 192.55. Let's see if we can hold on. Let's see if we can hold on to it. Rocket Lab 72.65. Robinhood 77.18. As that one is continuing. And doesn't really look like it's trying to slow down. Oil's under 95. Oh, we didn't even look at oil today. Oil, is it actually under 95? Oh my goodness. 95.24 on crude. That's another reason the VIX is getting hit so badly. Look at that. We were at 92 last week. We can get this to go down. even further, things are going to be exciting. The Chinese spokesperson just tweeted, with the temporary ceasefire agreement still in place and the U.S. ramped up military deployment and resorted to a targeted blockade, this will only aggravate confrontation, escalated tension, and undermine the already fragile ceasefire and further jeopardize the safe passage to the Strait of Hormuz. It is dangerous. China believes that only a complete ceasefire can fundamentally create conditions for easing the situation. We urge relevant parties to honor the ceasefire agreement, stick to the direction of peace talks, and take concrete actions to de-escalate the situation so that normal traffic via the Strait will be able to resume. Look, I wonder how long this blockade's even going to persist. And I wonder how serious the U.S. is going to be about enforcing it. Because if they are ready to negotiate, I mean, and it's true that like they're getting closer to a deal and the talk should be starting on Thursday as per multiple reports. You know, maybe the blockade's not even going to be that intense, and maybe the Chinese aren't going to have to worry about it too much. And the market's definitely not going to think it's an issue, or the market's pricing it like it's not an issue. So hopefully it doesn't. 192.84. Is Bitcoin really making a move? Oh, Bitcoin's really, really making a move. Where was this on March 30th? 65. We're at 75. So that's 10,000 in about 2 weeks on BTC, which is absolutely the recipe that Hood needs to come back. It would be massive for MicroStrategy, massive for ETH and BMNR, if all those names could get some of that excitement. Saylor did buy, is it at Saylor's price yet? Saylor bought it at freaking, Saylor bought $1 billion last week. Let me check his average price. I think his price is around this range. He definitely averaged down. Their average cost on BTC is 75,577. They are $20 away from breaking even on Bitcoin. Yes, we will have Technical Tuesday today. We will have that with Jason today. I don't know what's happening with Fastly. Again, I have not bought this stock yet. I am interested, but I'm actually kind of happy that it's down 11% because now if I get excited to buy, I'll hopefully have a good dip. But this one to me is not a SaaS name. So it getting taken down with the SaaS names didn't make sense. But today it's not going down with SaaS because SaaS is up. So there has to be something else for why it's getting hit. And we'll have to take a look at what's happening. Mercado Libre, that's up 1%. Where is fear and greed? I hope we're not at greed yet. Oh, we're at neutral. Dude, say whatever you want about fear and greed, but this freaking thing is one of the most accurate things ever. Like when it was at extreme fear a couple weeks ago and you bought, like it was the right move. And in October when it got to, I think it was teetering on greed and extreme greed and you sold, it was the right move. Like it really has been accurate. And I don't know, maybe next time we just got to trust it more often than not, given how many times it's worked. Orbs right there, that's up 7%. Circle up another 9% after being up 9% yesterday. Circle 18% move. This stock is down from 130 to 90. So that's getting a lot more of a reversal. VG is going down, which is good to see. VG at 12.15. SoFi 18.05. There you go, $18.05. That's up 8%, 9.2% since yesterday. And then Hoodie. Could we imagine if Hood comes back? Could we imagine if Hood actually gets even close to $100? Like so many portfolios that have just taken a hit from this stock, even if they're still in the green at 77. A lot of those gains will come back. But that's true about a lot of stocks, right? If SoFi gets back to 23, if your Broadcoms get back into that 400, your Nvidias get back to 200, there's just a lot of names that are, ServiceNow, Soft, Zeta. Zeta was at $25 in January. It's at 16. Like if Palantir gets back up to the 150s, BMNR, imagine how many people, including myself, getting hit by that. That thing gets back up to 30, 35. ETH gets a move to 3,000. I mean, it could be really exciting. It could be if we get there. MicroStrategy, that's making a move as well. Nvda launches Ising, the world's first open AI models to accelerate the path to useful quantum computers. I told you guys Jensen was going to pump it. I should have bought the quantum stocks myself. I had a hunch. I was like, if they're doing some freaking quantum day, they're going to pump it. There you go. I don't know what this necessarily means. I don't know how it's going to accelerate quantum computing, but the point is you've got the world's largest company saying the word quantum over and over again. And that's all that matters. I'll see if I can get a video on this announcement or some more details. Bitcoin right there, 75.5. Tess does have the quantum stocks, so she will not have to worry too much about the quantum pump becoming real. Tess also very early in Bloom and Nebius, so those two. I mean, dude, Bloom, Nebius, and quantum all moving up on the same. Tess is gonna get some freaking medium well steak tonight, right, Tess? It's got to be medium well. It'll be very expensive medium well steak, but it'll be medium well. I've changed my tune. I'm more medium than medium well, but I'm still not fully medium rare yet. Like medium rare, I still think is like, it's a little too aggressive. Medium, I think is I don't know why people are so opposed to medium. Medium well, okay, I was a little too much. Medium rare is like, oh, I don't know, it might still be a little raw. Hood right there, 7770, AMD, 247. IONQ, dude, talk about a day to get that DARPA contract. That was, look at this, 15%. One of the best days for them to announce that, given Jensen's ready to. Could you imagine if Nvidia buys the quantum stocks? Could you imagine? And you know, Jensen threw some shade at the quantum stocks back in February of last year. Those stocks were literally down 50% in a day. Like legitimately, they got chopped in half. And then he felt bad about it, so he apologized. Like he literally felt bad because he imagined himself as a young entrepreneur, and if someone said something crappy about Nvidia, and his stock would have been down. So like, I think he genuinely felt bad. But I also think Jensen was like, wait a second, what if I'm wrong? What if quantum is more legit than I think it is? What if we just embrace them and collaborate with them versus like push them off to the corner? And that's why he's a phenomenal CEO, because he learns how to work with people and bring them up together versus like be competitive with them. That's what Jensen has done that since he's been at Nvidia. And that's why everyone likes working with him. That's why all these companies want to be part of his announcements and all this stuff, because they know that he's a team player. He tries to bring everyone up so that everyone can win. Bloom Energy, 17%. IONQ up 14%. Nebius losing 160, which is not that crazy. Still up 3.2%. But it is losing some of that momentum. Crude is still getting hit. Crude, are we almost below 95? We are 94.81, folks. Every dollar on crude matters. Every freaking dollar, as that one's going down. Nvda Ising delivers breakthrough performance in quantum calibration and error correction, empowering researchers and enterprises to build scalable, high-performance quantum systems. I want to see, Cactus, if you can get a video of Nvidia announcing this, that'd be awesome. If not, I'm sure they'll probably put out a video later today. I think they're doing an entire live stream on their channel. So that's where people can get more of the information, but I don't think that's happening right now. And then we'll try to see exactly what's happening. Does ServiceNow go red? Did it actually go red? Oh, ServiceNow, okay, about to go red. How about Palantir? Palantir still holding on, 3%. Palantir is not easily leaving. Salesforce losing the green candle, but it's better than ServiceNow. Adobe already went red. Adobe's basically flat. Okay, so some of your SaaS names, you're seeing some selling, but it's not wide scale. Cloudflare went red. CrowdStrike went red. Zscaler went red. Mongo went red. Atlassian went red. Fox News on a senior official in the Trump administration, strong indicators towards reaching an agreement with Iran, but the picture is not complete yet. Yeah, I mean, dude, we're going to get this deal. This is like, the market is obviously pricing in that we're going to get this deal. It is becoming more obvious than not that it's going to happen. We don't know when it's going to happen. Oracle right there up 5.7%, but it feels like if they're talking about a time for, if they're talking about when or how long it's going to take, how many years on the ban of nuclear weapons, not if they're going to ban the nuclear weapons, right? It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. Then a deal is just more likely than not. Now it's about negotiation, not about like literally being at an impasse and not being able to agree on anything. Which means I think we get some momentum. Meta 650. Oh my, she's back. They took this thing to 520 on March 30th. They took it to 520. Sorry, on March 27th, they took it to 520. all the way back from those lows. I mean, there's not that many opportunities to get a generational company like Meta. You had 88 in 2022, and maybe 520 ends up looking like 88 a couple years from now, potentially. Zuck's definitely is trying to 5x this thing from here. Conviction rewards. It absolutely rewards. Netflix right there, 1.35%. The Dow's up 0.39. Baba's up. Bill Ackman, yeah, I mean, well, so Bill Ackman's average is 625 as per his last filing. So we'll see if he bought more. I would imagine he had to have bought more Meta because I doubt they had a full position on their initial entry. And if he did, then he's probably had an average now below 600, and they're going to try to ride it up very aggressively. Snapchat right there, 526. That's up 2%. Isn't it so crazy, though, that you as a regular investor that doesn't manage $20 billion like Bill Ackman have the same opportunity by swiping up on your phone to buy Meta at 520 that all the other institutional guys did as well? That's the cool thing about the markets. Like, so much information is out there. So much has been democratized. I think a decent chunk of us bought the Meta dip. I bought at 570 and then at 600. So I obviously did not get the 520 lows. But like the fact that there was an ability to access that level of price action. Now, it looks good in hindsight because the stock is up. I get it. But the point is, Meta is still not expensive here. In no world is anyone going to tell me that Meta is some massively expensive company that is overvalued. Like, that's just not true. I don't think anyone would seriously believe that. And so at 520 or 530 or 550 or 570, you know, these opportunities, or Amazon, right? It was stuck at 200 for the majority of the last month. And now you got your breakout. And now you have your breakout. So it's just really cool. Sometimes these opportunities pop up, and doesn't mean you have to get the absolute low, but just being able to be part of these opportunities is exciting. Oklo's up 6, SMH is up 0.37, ASTS losing 90. I really don't think this freaking Amazon thing is that serious for ASTS. And this stock has been known to react more aggressively when they have acquisitions come up, but still, that is weird. ASTS down. SPY, did we hit 690? We have hit 690, folks. We have hit 690. Private equity over the past month. KKR is up 15, Ares is up 10, Apollo's up 10, Blue Owl's up 2, and Blackstone's up 16. So you're starting to see a lot more of that momentum in private equity as well, which was also seen as a sector that got hit pretty hard. And it might be coming back. It might be coming back. Funny File says, I'm teaching my dad how Hood works. It's super simple. He loves investing and checking the app often when before he was just a 401k guy. I have the exact same story. My dad freaking loves opening up Robinhood. Like, he called me yesterday. He was like, why are we up so much? What happened? He just loves hearing about the markets. And it's actually brought me and my dad closer together, you know, because as you get older, you want to have something that you can talk to with your parents as they get older as well. And, you know, the markets are one of those ways that we connect. Nvda, okay, let's talk about this quantum thing. Let's see what they said. Here's the press release. To achieve quantum applications at scale, significant breakthroughs are needed in quantum processor calibration and quantum error correction. AI is key for turning today's quantum processors into large-scale, reliable computers. Jensen said AI is essential to making quantum computing practical. With Ising, AI becomes the control plane, the operating system for quantum machines, transforming fragile qubits to scalable and reliable quantum GPU systems. Okay, so basically Jensen is trying to insert himself into the quantum ecosystem by essentially making the argument here that if you want quantum to succeed, you kind of have to have GPUs. You have to have Nvidia, which makes sense for him. The quantum computing market is expected to surpass 11 billion in 2030. Nvidia includes state-of-the-art customizable models, tools, and data that accelerate the quantum process. With Ising, AI becomes the control plane, the operating system of quantum machines. It'll allow calibration, decoding, optimization for speed and accuracy. All right, folks. Jensen's pumping it. Jensen is freaking pumping it. And they're seeing it happen. They're seeing it happen in real time. I mean, it's kind of crazy because, like, Jensen a year ago was not that friendly with quantum, and now he's like Nope. We got to include them, which is bullish, but it's also him hedging. It's also him hedging his bets that if he's wrong about quantum not being as important as AI or GPUs, that, you know, he plays a role in accelerating it. Palantir 137, baby. 137 on Mr. Palantir. I don't know if anything Jensen is saying are right or wrong. Honestly, I do not know enough about quantum. I guess this will allow a lot more people to do more research on it, but the point is he's given the quantum stocks a much needed boost, which I don't think they're too upset about. Bloom is at 210, up 18%. Micron, are we getting a Micron move? Micron is at 434. That's up about 2%. So you got Micron getting a little bit of love as well. Amit, would you buy Oracle here or IONQ? I just don't know enough about IONQ, so I would buy Oracle. I also think Oracle is still cheap. But again, I just don't know enough about IONQ to kind of compare both of them. Robinhood 78. Robinhood 78. Nebius just below 160. Quantum GPUs, folks. That's what we've got. Quantum GPUs. Doug says Trump is going to get a deal and some federal judge is going to overrule and declare the U.S. must allow Iran to not only have a nuke, but DJT must personally deliver the entire U.S. arsenal. That would be kind of funny. I'm not going to lie. Look, it looks like we're going to end up getting this freaking deal. And I don't know if it's 10 years, 20 years. If Trump gets 20 years, though, if Trump actually gets 20 years, whether or not you can compare it to the Obama deal, all that's, none of that matters. The point is, how is he going to frame the narrative? And there's two narratives going into November. We're still in a war and people can't pay their rent, or we're out of a war, market's up, inflation's down. And once you can pay your rent, you can start thinking about geopolitical safety. It's hard to think about that shit when you're broke. When you're kind of doing okay, even if you're just surviving, you can now focus on like these abstract geopolitical World War III, nuclear war type of threats. And Trump's going to be able to frame that in a really strong way if he gets an actual ban on their enrichment program for longer than 5 years. And who knows, maybe he gets 20 years by giving up a lot of sanctions relief. And, you know, people will say, well, that's stupid because you're giving them all this money and they're still a terrorist state. But he'll be able to frame it as, hey, I stopped them from getting a nuke, which is all that matters. I mean, it could get very interesting going into the midterms for how Trump tries to play this argument. U.S. issues Russia-related general license authorizing certain deals involving oil, Luke oil, as per Russia, the Russian Treasury website. So you got the U.S. potentially allowing more Russian oil to be sold. Trump admin official, we have all the components of a deal, but it's not finalized yet. And then Fox News said strong indicators point towards reaching agreement with Iran, but the picture is not complete yet. Oh my goodness, oil's really coming down, folks. 93.85. It was at 107 Sunday night. I mean, that's like that's like not bad to see that. VIX is down almost 6% today. It's like really, really good to see that type of downside momentum. SoFi, 1794, Robinhood at 78. Netflix earnings is on Thursday, not today. Not today. And you've got Bitcoin coming back. Yeah, 92.90. It's actually below 93. Wow. 92.90. I think 91.80 was the lows of the day the ceasefire was announced. So we get below 91. We're going to have fresh lows after a couple weeks. It was at 62 months ago. What's your point? Well, the stock market was also at 690 2 months ago. So the point is the fact that the stock market is getting back to where it was 2 months ago, but oil would still be up 30% from where it was 2 months ago, means it got priced in. That's the point. And when things get priced in, we can start focusing on other stuff because they're not as relevant. Just like PPI and CPI. They got priced in well before they were announced. The market didn't care, even though they were the worst prints we've seen in 2.5 years. So if this stuff continues to get priced in with a trajectory to think it's going down, I feel like the market's going up. Iran, 46.53. Pakistani's prime minister, we will travel to Saudi Arabia and Turkey this week to promote peace efforts. Okay. You've got the Pakistani PM, who's now getting ready to continue promoting peace. Again, those talks in Islamabad might be happening this Thursday. We don't have that confirmed yet, but if we do get, look, that's another big market moving event. If Trump tweets that we will be having talks in the next couple of days, again, for round 2, it'll just affirm everything the market's been believing about this peace deal. SMCI 19 was the low, or I guess let's just say on the bottom on that China GPU smuggling news. 27. That's a hell of a move. That's a hell of a move from those lows. That was peak fear. Maybe it was warranted. But if you bought and took the risk, you're green. FCC chairman is live. Bro, they're talking about space data centers. How much SpaceX stock did Elon give him? How much SpaceX stock did Elon give this guy?
Centers in space. And there are questions about whether there's favoritism for a Starlink and an Elon Musk because they're going about this. So it's interesting to hear you say you want more competition here.
Yeah, look, we're all gas, no brakes when it comes to the space economy as a general matter. We've been moving much faster at the FCC across the board on Starlink, on SpaceX, on Amazon as well. We're processing some of their requests. And so our entire Space Bureau is moving full steam ahead. We think U.S. leadership in the space economy as a general matter is a very good thing. So we're going faster on applications, more spectrum out there, supporting launches. I think it's really good for the country.
What about data centers in space? Is that something real?
Yeah, we're open to that. You know, Starlink has come in with a request for up to 1 million satellites to do it. Again, we're ultimately not the arbiter of what technology succeeds or not, but we shouldn't be the constraint either. So we've directed the staff to move quickly on all of these different applications. And it's not just Starlink. There's other companies with orbital data center requests at the FCC, and we'll be moving quickly on all of them.
You've also been really focused on drones, which I wanted to ask you about. You had a recent trip to Anduril, for instance. What is the FCC's role in regulating drone technology and making sure the U.S. is number one?
Yeah, President Trump wants to make sure the U.S. leads the way in drone technology. He's had a number of executive orders to make sure the U.S. leads. Our role is a couple-fold. One is spectrum, making sure that the drones have access to the spectrum necessary. 2, they end up having to file applications with the FCC for use of spectrum, and we're going much faster in processing those applications. In fact, we have a public notice out right now to see what more can the U.S. do to support domestic America-led drone manufacturing. And we manage something called the covered list, where we recently prohibited foreign-produced drones from being marketed or sold and used in the U.S. So significant role
They have
for
to
the
be
FCC
domestic.
here.
Yeah, we're looking at this footage from you, I think, at Anduril. Do we lead in drones?
Yeah, we're in great shape right now. You know, Anduril and others are leading the way. Really interesting technologies, both drone and counter drone. And we want to make sure that the government is moving super fast in this area, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, so
So you got drones, data centers in space. This is all the stuff that are, that the market is more excited about, or at least pockets of the market are excited about, with your Ondas, Kratos, all those companies. Obviously, the SpaceX IPO coming up. Look at Netflix getting back into that 105 range. Not that bad, but if you got the FCC that's ready to endorse these different products and ideas, Ondas actually read on the day, that could be gearing up to get a lot more people to potentially be excited about the trajectory of data centers in space, which quite frankly is what, I think a lot of people think could be the next S-curve for SpaceX. And drones already have had, a pretty good run since the lows of last year. The Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez in Spain just posted a picture of himself shaking hands with Xi. In a world that is increasingly uncertain, Spain is betting on an EU-China relationship based on trust, dialogue, and stability. We must continue advancing towards a multipolar order built from respect and pragmatism. Okay, so you got the Spaniards working with the Chinese right here and trying to continue to promote that type of diplomacy. S&P 690 Palantir. Give us 140, baby. Get Michael Burry the hell out of here. Give us 140. Let's see if we can get that move back into that range. S&P 690. This is one of those times of, obviously, it's been 5 years. I bought the dip on Palantir in many different situations. This was one of those times, like legitimately zero hesitation or fear. It was one of those times where it was like, this is not real. This is stupid. It was painful, obviously, seeing it collapse from 150 to 122, but it was like, this is not, no.
This is not. And I think, I talked to a bunch of other OGs, like, what was it, on Thursday, Friday, when Palantir was really going through it. And they were just like, dude, like, we've been covering the company for so long at this point. This was not scary. Valuation, yes, is aggressive, but the actual act of buying and holding on a drawdown, which is what you're supposed to do when you have something you really believe in, especially if you're averaging up and you've been buying for years, there wasn't that much fear. There really wasn't. And I was like, all right, if the street wants to give us a discount, let's take the freaking discount. Especially when you think about software as a sector getting sold off way too aggressively. The Iran war potentially coming to an end is a natural catalyst, oil coming down. And then you add Mr. Donnie T. Give us a nice little endorsement. I bought before the endorsement. I bought the day before that happened. But, you just remember this company's too important. And they're growing. They're growing. They're growing better than every other software company that's out there. Especially from a margin profile. Their margin profile is better than most companies in the stock market. And it's accelerating. The street pays a premium for that. And we might be seeing that rebound right here. Adobe 240, Meta 650.85. Yeah, Trump called the bottom on Palantir, literally. Robinhood 10%. If she comes back, things can get very, very exciting. Turkey to host regional powers to discuss ceasefire and Hormuz. Wow, is Turkey going to do it? Are we going to have the talks in Turkey, not Pakistan? Oh my. Oh my. Are we going to have talks in Turkey? I wonder if they serve mashed potatoes and gravy, with the turkey. That would be, JD Vance is used to that, right? He'd probably enjoy it. I don't know if the Iranians would eat that, but Google 327, dude, Micron making a move, 440. Micron making a move. Tesla also making a move, 361. 361. That was not bad, okay? That was not bad. That was not good, but it wasn't bad. It was a mediocre joke. Not good, not bad. Don't say it's bad. Bad is too aggressive. Good is maybe too excited. It was okay. All right. Sometimes in life, you can be okay at things. Nebius back to 160. Hoodie, first 10% day in 2 months. First 10% day. And it looks like it's actually going to hold. We did get to 78 the day after the ceasefire, but it didn't hold. We went right back down to 72. So this one actually looks like it has some power to potentially hold. Grab 388. Micron still making a move. Who bought the ASTS dip? Put in the chat. Does anyone buy, or is a space mob taking advantage of this? Is this a dip that, like if Rocket Lab was down 10% today on a competitor buying another competitor? Like, is that something where you just shut up and you buy that? Nike, that's up 1%. Viva and Autodesk, Burry bought yesterday. Trump's son Eric and his wife Lara to join president on the May trip to China. Okay, got the whole family going to visit the CCP. Iran 47, baby. 9% up. 9% up. Wow, decent amount of people. Philip sold ASTS puts. Warmap bought ASTS. Andreas bought ASTS. Zaku bought ASTS. Aaron bought ASTS. Abul bought calls on ASTS. Eric buying ASTS heavily. This is why no one can ever doubt Space Mob, bro. Space Mob is just built different. When a stock has a cult, Palantir had that type of a cult. ASTS has that type of cult. I think Nebius is developing that type of a cult. I really do. Iran has that type of a cult. They just have not had the business execution to match it. Once you get the business execution, that cult is going to continue to rein in on that power. Like, the cult is important, but then if the company executes and you have the cult, it's lights out. Because then you have people that are never going to sell. You have people that are going to buy every dip. You have people that are going to buy into strength. You have people that are going to post millions of tweets every other week explaining their thesis. That's really what happened with Palantir in those early days. And it had an absolute explosion. And I think, ASTS around that $20 price in February of last year, that's when it really started taking off. And I think over the past couple months, as Nebius was in a drawdown, you started seeing more of that for Nebius. Donovan, thank you for the super chat. Again, you do not have to send these $20 super chats. I deeply appreciate it, but you've sent too many of them, so I appreciate you. Celebrating another Greeny Green Day and sharing the proceeds. Cheers to hopefully a full return of the Bulls. I will say that last part of your sentence, sharing the proceeds, I will say it is very important to share the blessings. It's really, really important. It's just in whatever way you can, whether it's your family or your friends or paying for dinner for someone or I don't know, whatever way you think is the right way. It's just that there's always something better in life if you give more than you take. And if we are privileged enough to be able to swipe buttons up on our phone and buy a stock when it's low and do absolutely nothing other than stare at a candle go up and then boom, you made a month's salary in a day, like giving just a little bit of that to someone else and sharing the blessings, even if it's $20, $10, $15, $100, I am a very, very big believer in that. Very big believer. Rocket Lab, 2.8%. As that one continues to go green. Amit, are you asking me to take me out to lunch? Dude, I wish I could take all of you guys to lunch one day. Just have this massive, I guess that's what the meetups kind of are. But it would be so cool to fill up a Texas Roadhouse with everybody and eat lunch right here. D-Wave, 15%. 15%. D-Wave is down year to date, still 40%. So maybe this is the moment of seeing some of it change. Domin says, Amit, I had to share this one. I got the perfect dip buy on Pounter after hearing you and Steve talk out the night before the tweet. Yeah, because the night before the tweet, it bottomed at 128. I bought it at 129.62. Then the day of the tweet, it went to 122, and that's when Trump tweeted it, and then it jumped up to 127. And now we're at 137. So that day before, I think a lot of us felt, all right, it was enough. And then the day after, it was like really bad. But Trump stepped in, and then, the Monday after, software kind of rebounded in general. So it was an opportunity. It was an opportunity. How can 9,000 people fit at a Texas Roadhouse? So trust me, every time, and Joseph Carlson will tell you that, every time I've gone to a freaking Texas Roadhouse, this place, I can't even get a seat. I have to go to the bar and order a meal. Like, I can't even get a seat. It doesn't matter if it's a random Wednesday night at 8 p.m. This place is always full. Their stock year to date is down 4%. Like, I would buy their stock just because it's like a Peter Lynch thing, but I don't like restaurants as a business model. Like, I really don't. And so I kind of don't feel like with tech trading at these multiples, I don't think you could buy restaurants here. But my goodness, Micron 439, there's something about the service or the steak, and the steak isn't even that good. Like, it's good food, but it's not like, oh my God, it's the best steak I've ever had. I don't know what it is. I would say it's the rolls. The rolls and, the butter rolls are amazing, but people love Texas Roadhouse. They love it. Credo, that's recovering, up 16%. BM&R making a move. Robinhood, not stopping, 78.88. I've gone to Peter Luger's. Steve actually doesn't like Peter Luger's. He's crazy. I went to the Peter Luger's in Brooklyn and Vegas, and the Vegas one was better, but Steve legit doesn't like it. I was like, dude, Peter Luger's is amazing. Yeah, Texas Roadhouse, if you just want a simple meal, it is not too bad. SPY 691. 691. I mean, we're moving. we are moving. Iran, nice little 10% right here. Oh my gosh, dude. Ondas, stats flip green. SMCI up 7. Marvell up a little bit. Let's see if we have any other headlines. Israeli defense minister, our operations in Iran have destroyed the Iranian nuclear project. Iran's agents in the region have been struck hard and have lost their ability. Enriched uranium could help restart the nuclear project, so that has to be a fundamental condition for us and the Americans to end the war. Trump and the Indian Prime Minister Modi spoke on Tuesday. Okay, so you have those Israeli updates from the defense minister, and now the White House is saying Trump and Modi spoke this morning. Do we have a Trump tweet? I'm trusting you guys again. Yesterday, you guys said Trump tweet and there was no tweet. I'm trusting you again. Oh, we got a tweet. All right, here we go. Trump, Europe is desperate for energy, and yet the United Kingdom refuses to open North Sea oil, one of the greatest fields in the world. Tragic. Aberdeen should be booming. Norway sells its North Sea oil to the UK at double the price. They are making a fortune. The UK, which is better situated on the North Sea for purposes of energy than Norway, should, quote, drill, baby, drill. It is absolutely crazy. They don't. And no more windmills. President DJT. I don't know a lot about the North Sea oil project, but I imagine if you guys are from Norway or from the UK, you might know more about it. It sounds like Trump is saying the UK, for environmental reasons, is not drilling as much as they should, and that's an issue. Wow, Bitcoin! She liked the Trump tweet. She liked the Trump tweet. 76. If we see 80, forget the price of 80,000 because it's still down a lot from 120, but the vibe shift. Oh, by the way, Nikita, who's like basically managing X right now, and he's like shipping all the products and he's engaging with the community. Elon hired this guy. He tweeted last night that crypto's getting kind of boring. Maybe we should launch something to fix it. And I don't know what the heck X is going to launch to make crypto more exciting, but who knows? Maybe they restore a little bit of confidence and excitement in the general sentiment around crypto. Maybe they launch a product that allows you to like tip people in Bitcoiners. I'm just spitballing off the top of my head. I don't know what they would do, but you get some crypto momentum. You get X launching some products. You have a big crypto community on X. Michael Saylor is probably going to keep bidding. STRC is giving you 11.5% yield. I mean, you have some conditions for maybe getting a bigger run. Meta 653. Oh my. CoreWeave 116. Meta and CoreWeave again, big deal. Meta gave them 21 billion last Friday. Dude, you're just getting a lot of momentum. Why did he say no windmills? I don't know, but at the end of this tweet, he said, and no more windmills. Trump has said many times, though, he doesn't like windmills. So he probably included that just to make the point about drill, baby, drill. Google 327. Google 327. What about Duolingo? We haven't looked at Duolingo in forever. 95. Obviously, this one's still down, which reminds me about the stock draft. Let's look at it after a couple real green days. Matt's still probably winning. But let's pull this thing up and see what we've got. Okay. Matt's up 31. I'm up 26. We got 2 months left. I mean, if Hood can come back to like 90, there's a shot I could go for first. There is a small chance I could go there. Obviously, I think Rocket Lab's going to keep pumping, so that's really going to help Matt. ASTS is also down today. That's why it's probably helping me. Even with this 80% stinker of Duolingo on the portfolio, maybe there's a shot. We're up 215% on Nebius. We're up 90% on AMD, 10% Tesla. Really, Nebius and AMD did all the work on my portfolio. Literally, Nebius and AMD did everything. Everything else is just, I mean, Apple definitely helped with 30%, but Nebius came in clutch. 215, AMD 126. Steve is up 7. Tanner's up 7.5. Chris is up 4.6. And then Matt's up 31. If I didn't have Duolingo, I think I would be first place. If I literally had anything, if I had anything just stayed flat, I'd be in first place, or at least very close to first place. Let's see. Let's see. Maybe even with Duolingo here, we get a run and potentially get up there. Robin at 78.60, Palantir just under 137, and then Coherent at 310. Coherent at 310. Circle. Can we check Circle? Circle is mooning. I think Clarity Act momentum might be helping this, but also just Bitcoin going up helps, right? Bitcoin going up actually helps. Chris, thank you for the super chat. This is for a mid buying Iren. Iren needs the deal, then 60, then 120 by end of year. You know, Chris, I don't think that's that crazy. Iren gets a deal with an Amazon or a Meta or an Anthropic. I think that thing easily. I mean, this thing was at 80 back in November. So the problem is the dilution, but I wonder if they can get rid of the dilution after the deal or in the midst of the deal, and the market still won't care, and you'll see so much buying pressure that it'll be okay. But Yeah, I agree. I think there's a shot that could happen. Mike, and thanks for the $10 super chat. Admit it would be great to do a Basis Point interview with a leading figure in the Space Mob cult. I would love to have someone from the Space Mob join Basis Points. That Anna Pan Man guy, he's anonymous, right? I don't think he would ever show his face on camera. We did an interview with him a while ago, through StreamYard, but it would be so cool if we could talk to him in person, because people would love to hear from him. Nvidia 193, got the highs of the day. VRT, look at Vertiv coming back, also all-time highs. I mean, you're seeing a lot more excitement. Doug just sent me a video of the sea oil rig. Let me pull this up. This is what Trump is saying should be used to drill baby drill in the UK. Okay. I think it might be a little hard to drill baby drill with those waves coming at you. Damn, dude, that's a little scary. Not gonna lie. Now, I think they're not drilling as much, maybe more for political reasons, not because of safety, but who knows? We'll see how Starmer responds to this, because I'm sure he'll respond to what Trump said. Doug worked in oil and gas, so he knows a lot of these rigs very well. 691.30 on the S&P. Norway is doing it, so the UK can do it as well. This is the first time I'm ever hearing about the North Sea oil rig, so we'll do some research tonight. This is about the thing about Trump. He's the content in chief. He tweets about all these different topics, and then you're forced to learn and analyze all these different things that he's talking about. So tonight I will try to learn much more about this. IGV still up 1.8. Dude, Meta, she's going for it. 655. 655. I mean, congrats to people who seriously bought that Meta dip. There was this one guy on X who went all in on Meta that day. Literally the day of the child exploitation lawsuit, which the market seems to not really care about anymore. I thought the market cared about that. Nope. The market is amazing at showing you or making you think that it cares when in reality, it doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. So if you bought the dip that day, I mean, it's working out. Nvidia 193. Where is Microsoft? Are we at 395? We are at 393 on Microsoft. And it's all there. Was that Chris? No, it was not Chris. It was this guy on X that's I think his name is Supreme Bag Holder or something. It's an epic username. It's a great username. But he's been long Meta for a while, and he dumped everything. He's like, I'm going all in Meta. This is stupid. That when you have real conviction, even after the stock has given you such good returns, that you can afford to do that because you just think you're smarter than everyone else when it comes to this particular stock. And that's a very, very, not only exciting, but it gives you a rush of adrenaline that is hard to explain. Like when you really feel you know this company better than everyone else and the price action goes in your favor. I mean, it's just one of those things where you feel on top of the world. And I think over the past couple of years, retail has had the opportunity to feel like that on a lot of different names. But the fact that he did it on Meta, which is not supposed to be a controversial name, and he went all in, and he's handsomely been rewarded for that since 520. It's the beauty of markets. It's the beauty of markets. That's scary. It is scary because what if you're wrong, right? But also, that's kind of the point of life. No risk, no reward. Like if you want to achieve anything in life, much less have a stock go up and go in your direction, you've got to embrace some level of risk. And there's a balance of mitigating risk. I want to be the next Justin Bieber. I would have to take a risk to do that. But there's also a calculated level of, hey, let me mitigate that risk of failing by realizing I can't sing, so I'm not going to go after that. But nonetheless, if I want to be the next Justin Bieber, which I've wanted since I was very young, I would have to, take that risk. So I ended up becoming a stock market YouTuber instead, which was more suited towards my talents of talking over singing. Although the falsetto that I hit yesterday, I do feel gives the framework for potentially achieving that childhood dream I had. But the point is, no risk, no reward. You got to risk it for the biscuit. MicroStrategy, 7%. Mercado Libre, that's up 2. The Qs, up 0.94. The Q's up 0.94, getting a bit more love. Let's listen to some analysis on what Bessent said, and then we'll keep going from there.
See you.
Sarah, welcome to DC. It's good to be here. Secretary Bessent sat down with reporters this morning. Our Matt Peterson was in the room, and he made news on a few different topics. The big headline going into this was that the secretary spoke with Semaphore late yesterday and said that he believed the Fed should wait and see when it came to interest rate cuts. In the room with reporters this morning, though, the secretary was really downplaying those comments. He did say that he still believes that rates should be cut, though he said he understands if the Fed wants to wait for some clarity, but still wanting to see those cuts. He was asked a bit about the Iran war. He downplayed concerns about inflation, saying there is nothing more transient than what we are seeing now, predicting that the conflict will end shortly and prices will fall right back down. He also acknowledged some economic impact from the war in Iran, but called it worth it, saying some small bit of economic pain for a few weeks is worth taking off the risk of a nuclear Iran. Lots of questions, Sarah, about Kevin Warsh's nomination to lead the Fed. He said he was confident that Warsh would be Fed chair. He sort of downplayed that Senate block from Senator Tom Tillis, saying the administration would simply let it play out. Matt Peterson asked about the relationship between the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, saying that Warsh has this desire to rewrite the Treasury Fed Accords. Bessent told him that he agrees with that objective. This is a quote: especially during the GFC, a lot of things moved from the Treasury to the Fed that are political decisions that should be at Treasury. So interesting to see that there, that we could start to see some sort of a shift in dynamic once Warsh takes that seat. Just a couple of others here. He was asked about the Trump-Xi-China meeting. He said the message for the visit is stability, sidestep questions about whether it could be delayed again. And on trade, he was asked whether those 10% baseline tariffs that are in effect could increase to 15%. He said it's up to the president. The president has not, of course, elected to do that so far.
Yeah, which is it's kind of a good preview of what he's going to be telling other world leaders here at IMF, because he's going to have a number of bilaterals with finance.
All right, so Bessent kind of making the same argument about not letting China get too powerful, but also the Fed not taking too many dramatic actions before the war were to come to an end. But notice what Bessent is saying: don't do anything until the Iran conflict comes to an end, which is implying it's going to come to an end. You got every administration official, J.D. Vance, Bessent, Trump, basically hinting that this is going to be over. Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not in a week, but it is going to be over. Amazon breaking out. Breaking out 247 on Mr. Amazon. Very nice to see. It's like me when I was 15 with pimples. It's breaking out right there. 246.90. Let's see if we can get a run up to 250, which absolutely would be epic. And it would be very exciting to see it. By the way, I'm lying. I didn't have pimples when I was 15. My skin, I never had to worry about pimples or acne. I just wanted to say that so I can make the joke. But like, I've never had to worry about acne. It's kind of crazy. And I don't really take care of my skin like that, which I should. I should like have a face wash routine with all the fancy like lotions and stuff that people use. But like I've never really had crazy acne or skin issues. But if I needed any face serums, I could go to Amazon.com and order them, and I would help pump my bags as this thing is running up. 246.83. I think, hold on, most people should be green on Amazon. We should not be holding bags on Amazon anymore. I don't think anyone has an average that is above 246. Like, I think pretty much all of us are in the green on this one. Unless you just loaded heavy in November and never bought more. But I really think everyone should be green officially on this position. Amazon 246.68. Green on the day. VIX under 18, which is amazing. That's not all-time high. Amazon 265 was all-time high. Amazon, well, the day it hit all-time high was 258.60, November 28th. It was a couple days after Thanksgiving. So we still have some ways to go to get there. But it looks like we got a shot. Crude is still coming down. Is it still coming down? 93.34. ASTS, I think this is overdone, and it was overdone. Bottomed at 89 today at 10.15, 10.45. It's at 95. Whoever bought the dip, there you go. Dude, if we get back to a stock market where buying the dip just works, I mean, we're going to have some fun for the rest of the year. Now, I don't know if we're out of the woods yet. where we can easily do that, because that's pretty much what worked last year until November. And it hasn't worked since. I mean, it's technically worked, but it hasn't been the immediate dopamine of, oh, this is down 3 cents. Let me buy the dip. That's literally what retail's been doing for 2 years. Oh, it's down 14 cents? Dude, generational opportunity. Are you kidding? You have your money in a money market fund? Meta's down from 650 to 649.43, and you're putting your money in a money market fund? Buying the dip. It's been different the past 3 months. Well, let's see. And then the good thing is, people think that's euphoric, but the earnings were growing with the dip buys. So every time these stocks dipped, they actually became legit cheaper. And so that's why retail has gotten filthy rich over the past couple of years, because you have the greatest tech revolution of all time, supported by earnings growth, not by hype. There's some hype, but a lot of that hype has materialized. Again, Anthropic doing $11 billion in a month, Nvda doing $80 billion in revenue, reaccelerating growth. The hype is real. And, retail's been rewarded by buying into the hype, because more likely than not, that hype is supported by earnings growth. Palantir 136, D-Wave still up 14. Oh yeah, and then we got rate cuts as well. But 2023, we didn't get any rate cuts, and we rallied. So it's like the rate cut narrative didn't even matter given ChatGPT. Obviously, it started to matter more last year, but ChatGPT is what really kind of started everything. Nebius back to 163, gave you a dip at 159. Gave you the dip at 159. And now we're back. This is incredible. Absolutely incredible. I think Hassett was live. Let's go to Hassett just a couple minutes ago. And let's see how he's explaining about the market. Yep, Rocket Lab's up 5%. Blue Owl's up. Credo 17% up on the day. Just a lot of these names making their move right here.
Well, I think Secretary Bessent understands, after looking at the meetings, the Fed meetings and the minutes, that there is disagreement amongst some of the governors about what the next move should be. If I were a governor, then I would be saying that an increase in the oil price that's related to disruption in the Middle East is something that we've seen over and over again, and it doesn't cause an increase in inflation. It's just sort of a level adjust that will quickly reverse itself when the situation is resolved. And so I still think that because the big supply shock that we're having in the U.S., because productivity is up so high, that there's downward pressure on prices. And you're even seeing that if you look at the consumer price index, which I'm sure a lot of people who went to the grocery store in the last few weeks and noticed that prices are actually finally going down. So I think that there is room for the Fed to cut still.
Yeah, I mean, the PPI backs up your case. You must have been happy to see wholesale inflation, especially core, was softer than overall expected. I think the uncertainty, though, Director Hassett, is how much that oil price shock lasts and how much it does seep into the system, because oil can affect so much more, transportation and manufacturing, than just what you're paying at the gas pump.
You're right, and we're of course sensitive to that, but I think that the people who are going to the grocery store right now and seeing that egg prices are almost at an all-time low understand that that's because of President Trump's policy to control the avian flu. The beef prices went way down because President Trump opened up imports from Argentina. And drug prices were down because of all of the policies we've pursued to lower drug prices. And so while there's macroeconomic stuff that the Fed has to think about, that we've been focused like a laser beam on helping the folks that go to the grocery store find that prices are going down because of prudent deregulatory measures that we're taking. And so not only do we have a good inflation story in terms of the numbers, but we have a good inflation story because we know where the numbers came from.
Yeah, I mean, the grocery stuff it has been better news, but, electricity prices are high. People feel that. We've seen health insurance and medical fees high. We've seen airline fares go up. I mean, there are still pockets of hotter numbers, and Americans feel those too.
Of course, and those things that you're mentioning are energy related, and anyone who looks at a chart for energy prices will see that they've gone up quite a bit since the situation with Iran began. but the president is confident that it can be resolved. And when it's resolved, then those prices will go right back down to where they were before. And then if you do that, and you pile on top of that the fact that core inflation is running around 0.2%. In fact, for the consumer price index, it rounded up to 0.2. It was actually in the 0.1 range. And so when you've got that, plus imagine if oil prices start going back down because the situation resolves itself somehow, then you could be looking at an inflation close to zero. So that's something that the Fed needs to pay attention to, because remember, energy prices going down would feed through just as, CPI, top line CPI has had energy prices going up right now.
Yeah, it's not the consensus. I feel like more the consensus at the Fed is with inflation closer to 3 than 2, which is their mandate, they can't be cutting.
I think that they've got amongst the highest interest rates on earth, and we've got core inflation running around 0.2. If you look at the 6 months average of core, it's the lowest it's been since the Biden inflation began. And so I think there's a lot less pressure on the Fed to lift for sure. And I think that with the productivity boom that's happening, there's plenty of room for them to normalize rates and get them back to about where they belong.
The other news that came out this morning on the economy was the IMF downgraded its global growth forecasts, and they see bigger hits in places like Germany and the UK than in the US. But the US growth forecast was downgraded as well to just above 2%. And I wonder if you agree with the assessment that the war is going to hurt the economy, because before the war they said that they were going to upgrade forecasts.
Well, I think that I disagree with the forecast for America. The fact is that our economy is really running on all cylinders, and you're seeing that with the earnings reports that you've been reporting on today, with the wage gains and income gains for ordinary workers, the big tax refunds that are coming because of no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. All of those things are big positives for the U.S., as is the case that we're the world's largest oil producer. So while it's very frustrating to go to the pump and see what the price of gasoline looks like, that the benefit for oil producers and workers in those industries is significant enough that the GDP effect in the U.S. is much smaller than anything that you would see if you look at, say, an Asian economy, or even in the U.K., where because of their Green New Deal type policies, they've more or less stopped producing oil. And so I think the U.S. is insured against a significant downside because we produce so much oil.
Yeah, and that's reflected there as well. And we'll leave it there, but obviously we'll continue the discussion with you.
I mean, if oil comes down, Hassett and the administration is going to be able to make the claim that we are headed into the same trajectory. Nvda making an intraday high of disinflation that we were on back in back before the war started. So the question is just going to be if they can get there. But if they can, the market is going to be excited about that. And Modi just tweeted, received a call from my friend, President Donald Trump. We reviewed the substantial progress achieved in our bilateral cooperation in various sectors. We are committed to the further strengthening of our comprehensive global strategic partnership in all areas. We also discussed the situation in West Asia and stressed the importance of keeping the Strait of Hormuz open and secure. Rubio is about to be live with Israel and Lebanese ambassadors to start negotiations. I don't know if we talked about it too much yesterday, but Lebanon and Israel are starting their negotiations today, which is, again, bullish, because if you get any level of an agreement between the two, S&P almost 692, you have more credibility for the war potentially coming to an end. So that is something we got to watch out for. Bitcoin down from 76 to 75. Hoodie holding 78. Palantir just below 137. Micron 437. Tesla 363. Nebius is 161 still. Close over 160 would be very good for that name. Brendan, thanks for the super chat. I'm feeling a bit richer today. I 4x my hood position, 3x Amazon, 2x Nvidia, 10x SoFi, 2x Zeta this drawdown. Deployed about 100,000 over the past month. Give me the bull market. Thank you, Mick. Congratulations, dude. I mean, it is very, very exciting when you can increase a position you have conviction in, but do it in a way that actually lowers the cost basis that you have on these names. Netflix, by the way, 105 almost. And it's working. It is working. And a lot of those names, SoFi, Amazon, Nvidia, Zeta, I mean, they just took a nasty haircut. And so even if they get back to 50% of where they were, like if Robinhood gets back to 100, it's still down from 150, but so many people, if you bought it around 60, 70, 80, it's still a nice move. Broadcom, by the way, fully recovered back to 380. Very, very nice to see, as that's also gaining more and more momentum. When do they end negotiations? We're not sure. I would imagine it would be like 2 days max. And then we'll have some details, maybe even by tomorrow. He brought up eggs again, right? Like, dude, the White House loves that those egg prices came down. Because to be fair, everyone was complaining about egg prices in November of 2024. And so for Trump, it's such an easy thing to be like, look, you guys voted me into office and eggs are now cheaper. Much cheaper. GameStop, how is that doing? GameStop's up 3% today. You do have a lot of people that still believe in this one and are excited about it. Microsoft 391. Goldman Sachs files for Bitcoin Premium Income ETF. We had Morgan Stanley file for an ETF on BTC last week. So you're seeing the institutions come back and get excited about Bitcoin. By the way, the Bitcoin ETFs lost 290 million in inflows yesterday. They had 358 on April 9th, 256 on April 10th, 291 they lost yesterday. I wonder today, given this run, how much those ETFs can amalgamate. Let's see if we can get momentum. Wow, Meta, she's going for 660. Zucks is back, baby. Zucks is back. You cannot bet against Zucks. Just can't do it. Just can't freaking do it. Amit, I am 100% on Nebius, and here's the question now. Should I sell some profits or keep? I mean, look, if I was all in Nebius, I don't know what your average is. You can put it in the chat, but I'm assuming you got in probably under 100. If I'm all in, like, yeah, I'd probably sell a little just to like, de-risk it, take a little bit of my cost basis out, if not my initial cost basis. I mean, I wouldn't be scared though, because now a lot of that fear has kind of been de-risked to an extent, given it's in price discovery mode. But yeah, I would sell a little bit. I would take my cost basis out. You're literally playing with house money at that point. I mean, the thing about some of these names is you can sell them and diversify into something much safer, which I've also done, or you can just ride them out. And so with Hood and Palantir, which were not safe when I invested, we rode them out and we got handsomely rewarded. Didn't have as much conviction on other names. So if I make some profits, I sell and I go back to the Amazons, the Metas, the Nvidias and pile them there because I can sleep well at night with even if they take drawdowns because I know those companies are too important for the global economy, much less the US economy. With the Nebius, if this thing's going to go to 500, you're going to feel bad for selling. But the question is, how confident are you that it's going to get there? Or even if it goes to 200 by end of year. And I don't know. It's made a hell of a move. Still not profitable, constant dilution. I can give you all the bear cases, but you can hit me back with the bull cases. So then the question becomes conviction. That's literally the defining factor of how you make that decision. Rocket Lab, almost back to 74. Almost back to 74. Saidu, is that pumping today? Saidu Space, that's up another 10%. CENTCOM says more than 10,000 U.S. sailors, Marines, and airmen over a dozen warships and dozens of aircraft are executing a mission to blockade ships entering or departing the Iranian ports. All right, so the blockade's real. It's happening. Hopefully that blockade does not stop any of the negotiations. IONQ, my goodness. It's almost like the DARPA contract was timed for this NVIDIA quantum pump. And then there you go. That's your move. Someone just bought 7 million in calls on the SPY based on the option flow. By the way, the stocks that were traded the most yesterday were more calls than puts on a lot of them. So you had your Teslas, Nvidias, and Palantirs, but the put call ratio wasn't skewing to the puts like it was last week. It was a lot of bullish activity coming right back into the calls. And if people are buying calls now, forget just stock. If people are actually buying leveraged options on this stuff. Well, I should be fair. I don't know if people are necessarily buying the calls. I should say traded. But usually when you see a skew like that and when you see the premiums get above or the bid get above the ask as easily, then it's more likely buying pressure than selling pressure on the calls. Pounds right there, 136. D-Wave, 16%. 16% as that's moving. Salesforce 173, ServiceNow 89.88. And you know, if it is selling of calls, that's not the most bearish, because to sell calls, if you're not doing it naked, you have to own the stock. So if someone's buying Meta just to sell the call against it, it's like, okay, the call is bearish, but they're putting net new capital into Meta, the company, and then they're using derivatives to benefit from the volatility of it. But it's not necessarily bearish. Now, if it's a bunch of funds doing it in a naked way, then it's a different question, but it doesn't have to be seen as bearish. Meta right there, 657.81. 657.81. SPY, we are not touching 692 yet, but we are trying to. Israel-Lebanon talks at the U.S. State Department have started. Israel-Lebanon talks at the U.S. State Department have started. We'll see if Rubio makes a statement here. We'll see if we can get him talking or any footage of that. Looks like negotiations are live. Tess says, so steak and oysters tonight. You know, I've never had oysters. I'm a seafood guy, but not an oyster guy. I feel like I've had it, but it was a while ago and I didn't like it, and then I've never got back into it. If I did, it was like 10 years ago. I really have not tried oysters in a long time. But Tess, yes, you should be celebrating with steak and oysters. I like fried shrimp, bro. Fried shrimp, coconut fried shrimp. Oh my goodness. Incredible. I've had octopus before. It's okay. Snails. I know that's not seafood, but escargot. Oh my gosh, dude. It's like with some steak, some nice bread. We actually had that at GTC. We went to a steakhouse and we had some escargot. I think I was there with Evan, and he's never had it before. I was like, bro, it wasn't Evan. It was someone else who never had it before. And they were like, I can't eat a snail. I'm like, dude, it tastes like chicken. It's not that bad. $247 on Amazon. $247 on Amazon. I thought you only ate dino nuggies. I'm happy I've started to embrace steaks in my life. Okay, what else do we got, bro? What else? It's just green across the board. It's 11 a.m. Are we seeing anything else too crazy? Peace talks are starting. We saw Hassett. Novo had a partnership with OpenAI. Do people still care about Novo? I know this one is at a rough couple months, but this was their announcement today about working with OpenAI, and that gave the stock some momentum.
Nordis is entering into a new strategic partnership with OpenAI. This is a partnership that intends to accelerate everything that we already do and open up doors to exciting new areas yet to be discovered. By embracing new capabilities and technologies, we will accelerate drug discovery, improve clinical development, and ultimately deliver new medicine to patients faster than ever before. This is a clear signal of our ambition to be at the forefront of applying AI in service of patients and science. We want to be a company that combines world-class science with the most advanced AI capabilities available. A company that invests in its people to ensure that they lead that change. And a company that does all of this with patient safety and responsibility at its core. We have already built a solid foundation using AI. This partnership takes us to a whole entirely new level. And that's quite important because everything we do comes back to one thing, getting the right treatments to the patients who need them most. I'm looking very much forward to accelerating this journey.
Is that the CEO? Actually, I've never seen the CEO of Novo, but yeah, look, they pumped to 60 in January, got hit pretty hard with a bunch of different lawsuits, and then you had the HIMSS partnership. I think some drugs, some FDA trials didn't go the best, and now they're back at 38.87. But Novo, Lilly, this whole GLP-1 revolution has obviously been very, very beneficial for the companies that are going after it. Okay, I wasn't going to say it. You guys are saying it, so I'm repeating your comments. I'm not the one saying it. I am regurgitating what you're saying. But it does seem like they showed a bunch of obese people at the end. Like, that was like we get it. You're making a lot of money on the fat shot drug. But goodness, you do more than that, right? Like, it's supposed to be broader drug discovery. I was like, even I noticed, I was like, oh, they're showing all obese people at the end to make a point or whatever. Well, they're not selling it to skinny people. Yeah, that's fair. That is also fair. Bitcoin, we're losing it. Don't do this to me, BTC. Ethereum officially went red. Dude, was that our pump? 76? That was it? Dude, look at ASTS going right back down. Got to 96, came right back to 90. The street really doesn't like this Amazon acquisition. But they were at 104 at 8 a.m. this morning. Now it's at 90. You're just seeing a lot more. I don't think Poet diluted. I think photonics in general are like LWLG, that's down. Lumentum is down. I think that's just photonics as a sector kind of getting hit. Nvidia big red candle. Is it a market thing? I don't see a market headline. It might be 11 a.m. shenanigans. SanDisk is down, but that was already down. Micron is, I mean, again, some of these stocks losing their highs of the day is not bearish, but if we enter net red territory for a lot of these names, it could be perceived as that. Poet did dilute by how much? How much did Poet dilute by? Really? They diluted again today? They said, isn't half their market cap basically cash? How much, if you have the number, I'm really curious. How much did they actually dilute by? 433 on Micron. Bitcoin loses 75. Photonics had a huge double-digit day yesterday. It's barely retracing. That's also fair. I mean, Credo, that Photonics acquisition they made definitely got a lot of the street more excited about them. Netflix got upgraded to 120 by Goldman. Look at that. This is such a big, big win for people at 70, 80 that just didn't believe the Marvell thing was going to happen. Sorry, not Marvell. Warner Brothers. Paramount. They didn't think the Paramount thing was going to happen. And then boom. Got a nice little move right there. I think, oh, let's check the Robinhood Investor Index. What are the top 10 stocks on Robinhood? This was updated April 1st. Yeah, Netflix is still there. Okay, so retail is holding on to Netflix. Palantir, Nvidia, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Netflix, Amazon, Apple, Tesla, and then Ford are the top 10 holdings for retail on Robinhood. I don't think the headline of deploying 10,000 soldiers is causing red candles. I mean, the market knows a blockade is coming. Now, if there's some aggression near the blockade, maybe the market's going to be upset about that because it undermines diplomacy. But I think the market is more convinced than not that diplomacy is going to hold on. Fluid Stack, cloud computing startup, raising $1 billion at a valuation of $18 billion. Doesn't Google have a stake in these guys? Yeah, Google has a big stake in these guys. And TeraWulf has a relationship with these guys, and Google has a relationship with TeraWulf. So there might be a lot of parties that could be investing in this new round. $1 billion at an $18 billion valuation. This feels like a breather before we pump again. Oil, is it going up? I see 93. I guess that's up a little bit, but let me check a different source that's a bit more real time on oil. Yeah, if it's going up, then obviously markets probably go down if that goes up a lot. Why Ford? Robinhood gave out free Ford shares to people when they joined the platform in 2019. I don't know why people held on to it, but they did. Crude is at 94. Okay, yeah, you're right. We are going back up. Okay, that makes sense. Look, if we end the day out at 690, I will not complain. Keep Palantir at 135. I'm not complaining. Keep Nvidia at 191. Well, keep it at 190. I'll be happy. Like a lot of these names, we don't get to get too greedy. Amazon even above 240 for me is amazing. Like 246 is like, oh, you're flattering me. 240 after the nonsense we've been through for the past freaking 2 months, I'd be happy with. Davis says keep Palantir at 144. Sounds like someone has a covered call at 145. Maybe. Google just posted, we're rolling out an upgrade design to help robots reason about the physical world in Gemini robotics. Google, pump my humanoid robotics bags, baby. Someone needs to do it because Elon's not doing a good job. We need someone to pump up these robots. Oracle losing a lot of the pump, but I am fine with that. It was at 130 instead of at 169. It's at 162. It could go back to 155. I wouldn't complain. I mean, a lot of these names, retracements, not even are they healthy, they're just like natural after these massive moves. And that is okay. AMD right there, 249 as well. Disney will be eliminating roles in some parts of the company and have begun notifying impacted employees. 1,000 positions of layoffs Disney is planning to let go. Disney 102, the stock's jumping on that news. Again, I don't hate Disney. I just really don't understand in a world of tech who buys this stock and who has a real thesis on. Like with the amount of technology that's out there to buy that's discounted, I don't see the thesis on Disney, which is why they have to do more layoffs, right? They have to increase their margins and try to get profitability to continue to increase. The parks is not a good enough business to buy Disney. Like so 2023 is when I looked at Disney very deeply, and I haven't really looked at it since then. So to be fair, it's been a couple of years since I really looked at it, but the parks business is not exciting. Like it's a good business. And the main reason I looked at it is because it was recovering since after the COVID lockdown. So I kind of wanted to see why exactly, people go to the park. What do they get out of it? What are the margins? Obviously, it's super expensive. Disney has a lot of pricing power. Kids are like, the parents want to give kids their like childhood dreams, so they're willing to pay anything. And so there is a moat there. But buying that over Amazon or Meta or like some of these businesses that don't have the same overhead, to me, it doesn't make sense. I don't get it. I do not get it. Oh, this is why Poet's down. Poet mentioned as a short at Wolfpack Research. We believe Poet is an obvious stock promote, has created an IRS nightmare. What? We believe Poet is an obvious stock report, has created an IRS nightmare. U.S. holders have until April 15th to act. What do they mean U.S. holders have until April 15th to act? What the hell are they? What is Wolfpack talking about? What does that even mean? U.S. holders have an obvious... I have no idea what this means. April, unless this is just like a fancy title for their note. Or are they serious that you have a day to act? Like, what the hell are they talking about? Now, it being an obvious stock report, I haven't read the short report. I don't know. But I don't understand exactly. Well, that explains why Poet's down today. Outside of the dilution, that explains why that one's getting hit today. Again, photonics plays, dilution, all that stuff is part of the game. But you have some other catalysts that could make some of them get hurt worse than others. But Poet was at 670 and now it's at 690. So even after that short report headline, it's not at the lows of the day, which is interesting because you would think it would tank on a short report headline, and it's not. So quite interesting that that's holding up. Google, are we moving? Google, she's getting a pump. I guess it's that robotics headline that's maybe helping it. 328. I just renewed my season passes for the family on Disney parks. I love it so much, so I own it. Yeah, look, the experience is phenomenal. I don't know if from a business perspective, like from a shareholder return perspective, it's that great. But, obviously a lot of people hold Disney because also they use the product and it's become a sort of Peter Lynch type of play for many people. I just, again, the big issue for me is Disney Plus. Like, I like some of the content there, but I don't see that growing as like this massive. And I know a lot of people disagree if you have kids and Bluey and all that stuff. I get it. But I don't know if they ever even enter into the world that Netflix is in terms of streaming domination. Unless they start putting out more mature content, but that's not really Disney's brand. So, granted, they do own Fox and Hulu, so that, you know, that also adds to the diversity of content they can put out. Meta right there, 658. That's still moving. Rigetti's up 11. Citi's up 2. They had a great earnings. Amcor, phenomenal, 61.92. Great move right there. Zeta's up 3, and then UAL is up 3 as well. I'm not a theme park guy, but with kids, it's with kids kind of guy, but it's not fun. The last theme park I went to was freaking Six Flags, but that was in 2011. It's been a while since I've been to Six Flags. And quite frankly, I haven't been on a roller coaster in a long time, but like those are the types of theme parks I want to go to. You know, if I had kids, maybe Disney would be more interesting, but it's hard without kids to actually go there. DoorDash still getting that 2% lift from yesterday after Trump had that lady. By the way, did we see the White House video that they posted? The White House posted a video with the DoorDash driver. This is what told me it was definitely like they literally they literally had her in the car. They're recording her in the car, which I was like, okay, so I don't know if even this is a DoorDash employee, but the point is Trump's focusing on the economy, which is good, but it was definitely a PR moment they tried to capitalize on.
Nice to see you.
Nice to meet you. I have your DoorDash order for you, Mr. President.
Oh, that's very nice. Look at this. The reason for this is the fact that I heard you picked up an extra $11,000 because the tax bill was so big. The refund was the biggest you've ever had. Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, I saved over $11,000.
It's really, you know, we call it the great big beautiful bill. We should call it the great big beautiful tax cut bill because it's tremendous amounts of money.
And are the White House good tippers? Do you know?
Wait.
Potentially. Yes, very.
And I especially want to thank you for being here.
Well, I want to thank you for the no tax on tips. It has helped my family out immensely, and I definitely appreciate it. Thank you.
The part the White House messed up on is if it was obviously going to be so staged, when Trump asked her, "Did you vote for me?" I don't know how much the White House paid this lady, but she's supposed to say yes. And she didn't do that.
It's fantastic. It's such an honor to meet you. And I think you voted for me, do you think?
Maybe.
Yeah. I heard you're a great supporter. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'll put this over here.
It's just all you had to be was like, yeah, yep, you know, like just like yes. It was like, maybe. So look, the big takeaway from this is that Trump, it feels like he's focusing back on the economy. Feels like he's focusing back on the economy, which is what matters. I mean, like, again, they haven't pulled a stunt like that in at least a month and a half. When's the last time you really heard Trump talk about no tax on tips, or every tweet's about oil prices and how we have to kill the nuclear Iran and the threat? Like, it's not really about the stuff people are going to care about when they go to the polls. And yesterday was something they really, really cared about. Amazon, let me check 248 resistance here. Someone said they bought DoorDash. I don't hate DoorDash, by the way. It's down a lot from those 270 highs. And the management team at DoorDash is incredible. It's just the consumer confidence story is what you have to be more convicted on to believe that deliveries will continue. But their last quarter was like their best quarter for AUV in history, average order value. So I think, like, it doesn't feel like they're slowing down. Oh, the reason they fell was because of that Citrini article about agentic DoorDash like replacing Uber Eats and all that. That's why I forgot. That's why they took the big haircut. Okay, 248 has 42,000 shares. 42,000 shares for Amazon. Getting to 248. Let's see if it's going to break through. S&P once again trying for 692. Netflix at 105. Trump tells the New York Post Iran talks could be happening over the next 2 days in Pakistan. Did he talk to Caitlyn? I'm curious. Did he talk to Caitlyn? I want to know if Caitlyn got us this scoop from Trump, or is this someone else? Trump tells New York Post Iran talks could be happening over the next 2 days. Caitlyn Dornbos. Let me look her up again. Let's see if it's Caitlyn. It is not. She did not put out the tweet. Okay, so whoever called to the New York Post, they are reporting. It's not really nothing new. I mean, we kind of knew from multiple outlets that the talks are starting soon, but it's more confirmation, which is good. That means Trump might tweet it soon, actually. If Trump told a reporter, he might put out a tweet soon saying talks are happening again, which honestly, it is kind of big. It's a big deal because although it was widely reported, the president himself didn't officially say talks are happening again. So if he says it, maybe we get some love. AMD, did we finally get 250? There she goes. There she goes. Last time we were at 250 was February 3rd, folks. February freaking 3rd, the day of earnings, when it cracked down. 2 months. It's back to 250. Striker, thanks for the super chat. Bought the dip. Thanks for hard work. Striker, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching the show every day. Kyle, thanks for the super chat. Not yet green year to date. Happy for all who you are. Amit, do you think it will be a sell the news event when Iran war is officially announced over? First of all, we did year to dates yesterday on the market close, and pretty much the aggregate from what I saw is -10 to -15. The people that are green are like +3, +5. There's some pockets that are in that +30, +40 if they kind of double down on a couple stocks that really made a move. But the majority of us, I was -11.3 yesterday. We are still negative, but I think over the next month, a lot of us can get to that break even. And then for the latter half of the year, start getting back to going green. In terms of sell the news when the Iran war is officially announced is over, that's a great question. Let's do a poll on that. Because, you know, I don't think you could easily say it's not going to be a sell the news. Although I'm inclined to believe that that's where the market's like, just boom, we're back in action. But then again, we have had a hell of a move. So maybe there's a world in which the markets are like, actually, you know, maybe we priced in a lot of this already. If the Iran war ends, is it a sell the news? I feel like the markets will know way before it's announced. The thing about last year in April is Trump, when Trump issued the 90-day extension on the reciprocal tariffs and said it's a great day to buy, not a lot of people really thought it was going to happen that quickly. You know, retail bought the dip because they didn't believe Trump, but they didn't think it was going to happen 3 days or 4 days after he did the whole PowerPoint presentation outside. AMD now 251. And so the way it happened made the velocity and magnitude of the move, because people just didn't think it would be that quick after the press conference that he did announcing the tariffs. And that's what got us a lot of momentum. Nvda, she's going for it as well. SPY, did we see 692? We touched it, 692. Wow. Back-to-back 1% days on SPY. My goodness. My freaking goodness. Meta, 660. Meta, 660. Okay, so for my sister, as I've been managing her portfolio, I bought a couple things for her. Bought her Palantir at 131 is what I got her for Palantir. And then Meta, I didn't buy that much for me as I bought for her because she had more cash in her account to be able to like really go heavy on it. I bought her Meta at 570. And the funniest thing about this is we had to take out a lot of money from her portfolio so she could buy the house, which she's going to be closing on in a couple of days. So officially will be a homeowner. And, it reduced her portfolio value a lot. But with the cash that we had, we just pummeled into some stuff. And she calls me yesterday and she's like, why is my portfolio up? And I was like, don't doubt me. I did it once. I will do it again. I did it once. I will do it again. And she was like, why is it up so much? I was like, because I did that for you last year. And we're doing it again, baby. We're doing it again. I'm running a family office. No, but we had to take a lot of money out for the house, dude. It was multiple six figures. And so she was low-key like feeling kind of depressed. And I was like, you shifted your money from the stock market to another asset. She was like, yeah, but now I don't feel like I actually, because you don't see your net worth every day. It's in this freaking house that you have a mortgage on that you have to pay off over the next 30 years. And I was like, yes, but now you're a homeowner. There's all these different benefits. And she was like, yeah, but like that number went down a lot. And I was like, well, the market also went down a lot. It's not just that. But she's slowly making her way back up. She's nowhere near where she was back in October. We're not there yet. But it is nice to see progression, dude. It is really nice to see progression. And the only two things I bought for her really, I bought some Nvda at around 175 for her, but really it was Meta and Palantir that I bought for her. So now we just let it ride. Let's see if it can keep compounding. SoFi right here, 1773. Google at 331 almost. Google 331. Meta 660.7. Is Reddit above 150? It should be. There you go, 153. This thing got to 122. So Reddit and Meta, both a good move. Meta, obviously, probably safer, but both a good move. How many shares of Meta? I got her 100. 100 at 570. So she's up 10 grand on those. And, it's like brick by brick, right? When you got to rebuild a portfolio, like whether you suffer from a drawdown or whether you have to take a lot of money because you have a life event, brick by brick, I think like it's so important to just day by day. Like you will get back there day by day. And you can't, get so reckless and scared and depressed where you just nuke your whole portfolio, go to cash, go all in on one stock. Like you kind of slowly by slowly build it back up. And, if you're more optimistic on the economy in general, even with the headwinds. And the most important thing is, as Benny says in the chat, earnings growth. Those are really the only two words that matter. Not Iranian war, but earnings growth. If earnings growth continues, capital has to be allocated. It's going to go somewhere. It can either go to real estate, crypto, treasuries, or stocks. Or Pokemon cards. And stocks just grow a lot faster than a lot of those other assets. S&P, are we going for 693? Are we going for 693? Because if we are seeing a lot of excitement. Bloom just doesn't stop. Congrats if you're in this. Tess, I know she's big in this. Chris Camillo's in this one. Unbelievable run. But it's not stopping. 216. 216 here. I got nuked in 2021 and went all in Palantir. Okay, but that's different because we were in a bear market. There's a lot of nuance to this. I don't think these last 2 months were a bear market. It was bearish, but not a bear market. When it's a bear market, you pick your horse and let it ride. Because then everything's down. So you kind of have to, to get those out. Diversifying in a bear market. I said this on Twitter and, there was this other account that like reposted what I said and said this makes no sense. And there was actually a lot of people in the comments defending what I said. I was like, how does it not make sense? When it's a bear market, you pick a couple names and you let them ride. You don't diversify in a bear market because everything's on sale. You got to be right at picking the right stock, but like that's the art of stock picking. But when everything's on sale, you double down, which is what so many of us did in 2022. So now if you have a lot of wealth that you have to protect in a bear market, it's different. But if you're trying to generate wealth, there's no level of diversification when the S&P is down 20% that's going to make back the 20% and more as easily. So I think it makes sense to consolidate those bets. Zeta right there, up 2.9%. United Airlines, look at that. UAL, 4%. American Airlines, 10 freaking percent. Oil's down, airlines up. That's it. And airlines probably have more room to run. The easy money has been made from 10.50 to 12. But from 12.20 to maybe 14, it's just a bit more volatile because crude probably has to go below 90. But the trade right there is still working out. Shout out to Tanner, by the way. He's in the chat. Greeny Green. I only have this clip because of Tanner clipping it. So thank you to Tanner for clipping that moment. Dude, hopefully we can play this clip every day for the rest of the year because it describes what's happening in the market. S&P goes greeny green. Greeny green. S&P goes greeny green. Greeny green. I'm like, honestly, I've listened to that like 15 times since last night. That falsetto greeny green is special. Like genuinely, it's special. Like I really think if anyone's connected to the music industry, like I genuinely think someone needs to hear that and just have a conversation. Like who knows? You know, why limit myself? I don't need to be a stock market YouTuber forever. I can diversify. I really, really do think it was pleasurable to listen to that falsetto. Now, granted, we're all making money, which is why it also adds to the pleasure, but still. Trump to the New York Times or New York Post. He says, you should stay there really because something could be happening over the next 2 days and we're more inclined to go there, he said. It's more likely. You know why? Because the field marshal is doing a great job. He's talking about them staying in Pakistan. Trump tells the Post Iran talks could be happening over the next 2 days. Shortly after speaking with a Post reporter on Tuesday about the outlook for future talks between the U.S. and Iran, President Trump called back with an update and said, you should stay there. He's talking to the New York Post reporter who's in Pakistan, and he's telling them to stay there, quote, because something could be happening over the next 2 days. Oh, we are definitely getting round 2 of negotiations. We are definitely, I mean, Trump is literally telling the reporters to stay in Islamabad because, quote, something could be happening over the next 2 days. That's it. That's confirmation. We are getting a round 2 of negotiations. And maybe if the U.S. and Iran can agree and meet in the middle, that's it. This is over. We're going to be moving on. It was not Caitlin. It was the New York Post, but Caitlin is not in Pakistan. But whoever Trump did call. Oh, actually, Caitlin did post. It is by Caitlin Dornbos. She probably wasn't the person that talked to Trump, but she's reporting. Wow, Caitlin. Dude, Caitlin she's now a part of all these like major updates. Nebius 164. I think that's the headline that might do it again, folks. Caitlin strikes twice. She better not take it back this time. Almost 1% on the S&P, 692.40. Netflix almost 106. Palantir close to 137. Nvda, let me check resistance at 194. Dude, we need to have Caitlin's notifications ready to go. Apparently, she's got the scoop on everything that's happening. 194 resistance for Nvidia, 96,000 shares. 96,000 shares. What really got you into Oracle? I just didn't think it deserved to be down this much if all the neoclouds were up. It was one of those things of like, okay, Nebius and CoreWeave are pumping. Oracle is down because they have a software part of the business, but the entire business is levered up like crazy on debt for data centers, not software. Think about this. Nebius and CoreWeave are levered like crazy for data center spend. Oracle is levered even crazier than them for data center spend, but they have $500 billion in RPO, which is 5x more than Nebius and CoreWeave combined. But Oracle is down 40% year to date. Why? Because they sell software? Like, that didn't make sense to me. Now, I get it. Oracle has other issues on their debt that are concerning, but you can't tell me CoreWeave's debt isn't concerning. Nebius's debt is actually not as concerning, but still, Nebius, they have debt. They're issuing convertible. So it just didn't make sense for it to be down with the other neoclouds up. And it got sold off in IGV. It's like the 4th largest holding in IGV. So that's really what compelled me to take a chance on it. Amazon almost at 248. It was 3 cents away. Let me check resistance again. I think it's about 50,000 shares. Amazon's going to break through. Amazon 248, 43,000 shares. 43,000 shares. I think we're going to break through. Meta 663. That's up 4.5%. AMD's up 2%. Google's up 3%. Coherence going back to green. Intel down, which is okay. It's had a massive run. But you're seeing a lot of these names. Where's Iren? Iran's still 9%. Still 9% as that's holding up. Okay, folks, not a horrible day. You got Trump confirming talks could be happening. And if these talks are ready to happen, maybe the markets are ready to move in the right direction. Yeah, we talked about Fluid Stack raising at 18 billion. That's more bullish news for the private markets in AI. And hopefully we continue to see more and more momentum in the broader AI sector as the market starts to think there is a shot of this continuing. When do I take profits on Nebius? Okay, this is like the 8th person today to ask that question. The answer is when you feel uncomfortable not taking profits. And that's for any stock. If it is just running beyond your wildest imaginations and you need to feel comfortable sleeping at night, then you sell a little bit. It's not that crazy. Especially if you're heavily levered into it or you're all in or you're not diversified at all. But now, granted, if Nebius is a part of the portfolio, but you've got a diversified portfolio with a lot of other safer things than a Nebius, and this one you took a risk on and it worked out, then I don't think you have to be in an urgency to sell because it's working and it's working for a lot of important reasons. Now, is it overextended? I think so. I wouldn't be buying it here, but that doesn't mean you have to sell. So the answer is if it makes you uncomfortable, take some profits. Because you just don't want to be in a situation where it tanks and you didn't, and you don't want to be in a situation where you're unless you're ready to embrace the anxiety of being heavily levered and all in on one position, which sometimes in life you have to do. But if you're not mentally prepared for that, then taking some profits here is not that crazy. S&P really trying for 693. I don't know if we get there. But maybe so. The also other tactical thing you do is sell covered calls, right? We talked about it on the channel for a long time. If you don't want to actually sell it at 163, sell a call at 170, force it to be taken away from you at 170. You're probably going to be happy that some of those shares got sold at 170 if you bought it at 80. And that's it. You're good to go. That's how the story could play out. Netflix 105, got Credo 19%. Credo still making a hell of a move right here. Massive momentum, 20% even after that dip in the morning to 149, and you got Pound here right there at 136. Tesla as well. Are we making a move high of day? Yup, 364. This thing was at 338 last week. Still below the 400s, but not horrible. SPY's not at all-time highs yet. We're looking for 697 for all-time highs. Well, Webull says 695.94. Okay, so 695.94, which we got on January 30th, is what we're looking for. Could you imagine if we break through that today? That's less than 1% away. I think it's too psychological for it to happen today, but if it does, it would be pretty incredible. Amazon, did we hit it? Did we hit it? We hit it. 248. 248. Congratulations. I think pretty much everyone here is in the black on our Amazon stock. 250 has 570,000 shares. So 250 is going to have a little bit of resistance, but if we break through 500,000 shares, we're probably going up. Very, very excited to see some of this momentum. Okay, that's what we got. That is what we got. Alex says, Amit, I have a question. I have a 550 Meta call option for June 2026. I'm currently up 7,000. Would you sell now or wait till June to exercise it? So that comes down to a question of how much conviction you have in Meta. I personally, if I'm in that position, given the macro backdrop, I wait till earnings. So earnings is probably going to be in 20 days. You have until June. The risk is Meta tanks pretty heavily and then your theta decays because you're a couple months away from it expiring, but you're also deep in the money. You're $100 in the money. So I don't think the risk is as aggressive, barring we don't get back to a massive war. And so I wait after earnings. I think earnings, it probably pumps again, and then you exercise it at 550 then, or you just sell it for a profit and you kind of hold up a little bit. But I would take the gamble on earnings just because of how deep in the money you are. If you bought it at 600 or 620, I wouldn't. But 550 feels like it's not easily getting back there. But it's nice to see. It's nice to see a lot of people. Look at Meta pumping right there, 664, literally $3 in the past minute on Meta. It's nice to see a lot of people getting this momentum. And the good thing about the hyperscalers when they pump, Amazon, Meta, Broadcom, they all take up 10, 15% of the S&P. So when they go up, the S&P kind of has no choice but to match that price action. And then we see more of that momentum. All right, that's it for me. I got to get out of here. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Deeply, deeply appreciate it. Let's do word of the day. I think Steve is live, so let's come up with a word to spam him with. Maybe we get a good word of the day, and we can do that one. But fun day to see some of this momentum. Pulverize is the word of the day. Pulverize. Bears might be getting pulverized today. To crush or reduce something to fine particles, to defeat, overwhelm completely. One undisciplined trade can pulverize weeks of steady gains. Okay. There you go. Oh, I know the word to spam him with. It's not pulverize. I know the word to spam Mr. Steven Fiorillo with. I know it. All right, we're doing it. Greeny green. That's the word. Greeny green today. That is the word. Austin says I pulverized the dip. I love it. Amazon, she's moving above 248. Let's normalize that. Doesn't deserve to be below 250. Quite frankly, below 275. By the way, the average price target on the street on Amazon, it's much higher than 248. Average price target right here, 290. So, and you got most of the bull cases around 320, 330. So let's see if Amazon can keep us in the green and if we can keep building from here. All right, we can spam greeny green on Steve. I will be back tonight. Jason will be on. Technical Tuesday is happening. We have a new world based on fundamentals that have shifted. So I'll be very curious to hear how Jason is thinking of the technicals. And it'll be a long show, probably 3-4 hours. We'll do the large caps and then we'll get into all the audience requests. And we will try to analyze what these technicals ultimately look like. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Have a great day. See you guys in the market close. And it's nice. It's nice to have a little bit of breathing room after a couple months, but we're all going to get through this together. We've been through it before, been here for the past couple years. We will get through this together. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys on the market close. Bye, everybody.